So we're at the 5-minute mark. Let everybody show up because everybody comes in a little bit late. I did want to talk about something today. Something has come up in my YouTube comment stream, and I just want to have a little discussion about this. So I've been losing weight. I've been losing weight since May. I got up to 218 pounds. My dog Peanut died last year. It was just a hell of a beginning of the year. Anyways, said yes to a couple too many beers. Ate a little bit too much pizza. One thing leads to another, and you look like a pregnant man. I'm not transgender, I'm just fat. Anyway, so I started losing weight, and I think one of the funny things is, I was talking about this on one of my YouTube channels, and one of the big pushbacks I got from some people is they were like, Eli, it's not so easy for some of us, right? So I've been running, and I've been eating less. That's literally my diet. So I'm now down to 184.4 pounds. So I've lost 33.5 pounds since May. But I've been getting this pushback from a lot of people. And they're like, Eli, it's not so easy. And here's my concern with folks that are watching the videos is none of this is easy. Life isn't easy. So if you're coming to any of my content expecting the easy way to do anything, you're going to be sorely disappointed. I don't care what level you're at. To be clear, in my heart of hearts, I don't care what level you're at. Whether you're 10 years old or whether you're a CIO, I will try to teach you the same, right? Whether you are brilliant, you probably don't need me, or if you really have mental learning issues or whatever, I am more than happy to help. Right? If you tell me, look, this is the problem that I'm having. Look, Eli, again, I had a girlfriend of mine who was dyslexic, and she said, like, words jumped around, letters jumped around. So if you're like, Eli, letters are jumping around when I try to read your content. I'll be like, oh, okay. And I'll don't know how good I'll do it. I'll see if I can try to figure out a solution. Again, we have these calls and everything that we do. But here's the thing, right? If you come to me and you're like, Eli, this is hard. Yeah. Yes. It is. I don't know what to tell anybody. Again, there's a lot of people in this modern world that they just seem to think like things should be easy, like money for nothing. If you see somebody who seems to be very successful and it looks easy, basically all that means is you are so ignorant and naive of what they do, you don't understand why what they do is difficult. So I'm just going to put that on the tables for some folks out there, because I've been getting this whole easy thing. And again, I don't know what to do with that. It's like, yeah, no, life isn't easy. I was working on that yesterday, actually. We were supposed to have the bottle web app framework self-study course was supposed to be finished yesterday. The final class, I only had one class to do. It was one single session I had to do to finish the bottle web app framework class. And all it was is deploying bottle web app framework. And basically in the class, you deploy it to DigitalOcean, and then you use VS Code to administer the Linux server and put your code up there and create a service and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. It took me all day just to write that damn documentation. Right, think about that. It's a Hello World app. We create a little bottle Hello World app that says Hello World, that's all it does. And literally, in order to upload that, put that onto a server, do the services, make it globally accessible, the whole 9 yards. It took a day to document, not even do the video on. So yes, this stuff is hard. Don't know what else to say about it. So there we go. Okay, I've burned some time. We're up to 2:04, so we're just going to dive into this. Part of the other notes I have to deal with is one of the things that I'll tell you is I have zero interest in rules. Again, one of the things that I've said is, again, authorityless, gatekeeperless, free to the end user with Silicon Dojo. One of the big points of that is when you have rules, when you have an authority is going to make a mistake. Whether they are in fact racist or they're just kind of tired that day, they're going to make mistakes. And so one of the things with Silicon Dojo is I'm trying to keep away from the very concept of authority and all that kind of thing. But of course, this is the real world. This is the real world. So whatever your pure idea is, is going to get kicked in the nuts by the real world. So I'm having people not showing up. So we do these one-on-one conversations. So every Monday, I set aside between 1 to 5 p.m. Eastern Time, get onto Zoom, and I set up conversations with folks to talk about your careers and hopefully infrastructure. At some point I like to talk about infrastructure, but it's mostly people saying, I want a job. Anyways, but I'll do it. Whatever. You need help. That's your question. I've been having people not show up. And one of the interesting things is some people don't show up, and God knows. Who knows if they're ever going to show up, whoever knows if they're going to care. Anyways, that's one of the risks of what I'm trying to do. But I've had other people show up that give me these excuses. And they seem like very good excuses. They're like, Eli, the reason I was a no-call, no-show for our Zoom meeting is because blah. You understand how important this blah is. And I'm sitting there looking at well, look, I understand how important it was for me to clear my schedule, to be there, to answer questions, to make your life better. That's what I understand. So we're going to make this simple. The first rule of Silicon Dojo, and if you're watching, you know you're the one who created this rule, is that if you are a no-call, no-show for a one-on-one meeting or anything of the sort, you are banned from those for 60 days. 60 days is relatively punitive. It should be painful if you actually want the information that I can provide, but it's also not forever, so maybe it's a middle ground. If you don't show up 2 times or 3 times, I'll just kick you off the damn site. So anyways, there's a rule. Why does Eli create rules? Because in the world we have to create rules. You don't show up, 60-day penalty box. So anyways, that's what we've got. If you're brand new here, so got a lot of people showing up. So this is Silicon Dojo, authoritative, gatekeeperless, free to the end user, hands-on technology education. Well, sort of hands-on. As long as you're doing it at home, hands-on technology education that empowers you to do whatever it is that you want to do. Again, I believe in the intrinsic value of human beings, and I honestly believe that if we empower others to do better, then we fundamentally make our own lives better. I know. That's stupid talk right there. But it's what I believe. And that's the point behind Silicon Dojo. I tried to do this in person. We're here in Nashville. That's its own story. Now, basically, this is a whole online experience. So if you go to silicondojo.com, you will see when we have online classes, this class here, and again, it also gets posted onto Meetup. Whenever I do these classes, I am recording these classes in 4K with a camera that's literally right beside this camera. As long as nothing gets corrupted, sometimes it does get corrupted, that will be uploaded to YouTube either tonight or tomorrow, and then I also post that. So these are all the old classes that we've done here, if you want to watch those, not in real time. Again, we do have these self-study programs. We have the Introduction to Python self-study. We have 262 participants currently. Again, also free. It's a 48-part series, as I recall. And so you go through there, and it teaches you all the basics of Python. Again, I'm finishing up the basics of Bottle, B-O-T-T-L-E. It's a cool web app framework. Monday we'll have that class, and then SQL, structured query language with SQLite will be the next series, and we're going to keep going. And again, as I was saying, we do have the tech coaching, 30 minutes on Monday between 1 to 5 p.m. I will get in and I will talk to you about your career development or infrastructure. You can't ask me about Azure versus AWS. I swear you can. I'll give you an answer. Anyways, that's there. If you would like to support what we do, again, free to the end user is not free. All this crap actually costs money. If you click on this link, support Silicon Dojo at DonorBox, that will take you here, and you can throw in money. Monthly is ever so lovely because then I can actually budget for it. But hey, if you want to throw in $1,000 on a one-off, I'll take that too. Seriously, any money you can offer can be useful. This all actually does cost money. And the self-study. If you do want to take a look at the bottle, again, everything up until that last class has been finished. That bottle framework is there. You can look at that under self-study classes. And that's what we got. So we are going to dive into this class. It's going to be a bit of me rambling. It is we're going to call this more of a structured ramble here. Again, whenever you do a business, whenever you do anything, there's this idea that there's spheres. This is my family sphere, and this is my personal sphere, and this is my entrepreneur sphere, right? There's this idea that everything is sectioned off from everything else. And that's garbage. That's trash. Get rid of that. You only have one sphere. That sphere contains 24 hours. And so all the kinds of stuff that happens in that sphere affects everything else, right? If you work late, if you do a 16-hour day, ergo, your spouse is probably not going to be happy. If your spouse is happy, your employees might not be happy. It's all one sphere. So I've been having a lot of stuff going on. Got sick. Anyways, a whole bunch of different things. So that's why we just have these bullet points here, and I'm going to walk through and try to give you some education about the real world of running a tech business. Because what you have to understand here is you will notice I have no banner ads. I have no sponsors. You people don't even pay for this. Again, I'm begging you, donor box link. It's a real thing. You can use it, right? Anyways, my value to you folks is proving that I'm being honest and giving you good information. And then hopefully you throw in a couple of dollars into donor box. One of the big problems that you see in the startup world and the technology world is that a lot of people have a vested interest to lie to you, right? They make money regardless what happens to your dumbass, right? They'll sell you on passion, they'll sell you on dreams, they'll sell you on all this crap. But the reality is they make money when you sign the dotted line, and that is it. And I've seen that with everything from mentorship, I've seen that to accelerators, I've seen that to incubators, right? There's so much in this world that is basically designed to take a smart, motivated, dedicated person, send them through the chipper shredder so that rich people can look through for the gold that's left over. That's basically just how the system is. Again, it's an interesting thing. Like if you actually listen to venture capitalists and you start realizing the numbers, like when you just sit there like a beer one night and you listen to the numbers that they state, and you realize, oh, those aren't good numbers. Like I was listening to one venture capitalist, right? And basically what he said is out of 62 startups that he will invest in, he expects 2 to be home runs, a few to be middling, possibly profitable, and then every other damn one to fail. So this is somebody who makes money investing in startups, and out of 62, he expects 2 to actually really get somewhere, a few to be middling, and the rest to fail outright. So when you are a startup founder and people start telling you how amazing you are, how wonderful you are, and all this stuff, realize you're just one of the 62. You might be the 2. You're probably gonna be one of the 60. And so be very careful with that. I mean, it's a sad thing. Again, coming from the Baltimore area, I spent 20 years in Baltimore, and one of the reasons, again, I don't consider myself a social justice warrior, but one of the reasons I get so irritated about this equity horse crap that people are talking about now is I have seen how black guys get shredded by a system that is purported to help them. And it's funny. Lots of people make a lot of money to help black guys. And at the end of the day, nobody really gives a damn what the end result for the black folk are. And this is something that you have to be careful about. Again, with accelerators, with incubators, with mentors, with all these people that are going to come to help you. So anyways, I'm going to try to be a little bit honest with you. And again, talk about the realities of doing this kind of thing. One of the big things, this has been coming up a lot now that I've been doing the conversations with you folks again, is why are you here? Why are you here? You need to face the spaghetti monster. Again, whoever the hell your spaghetti monster is. Not going to get into who your spaghetti monster is, but whoever your spaghetti monster is, you need to go have a long, deep conversation about why you are on this planet. And I know that sounds like, what? Wait a minute, we're creating a dog dating app here. Where's religion coming into this thing? Because one of the big things is when you start a startup company, when you found a business, you are going to be dedicated to this piece of crap for a long time. Whether this piece of crap makes you $1 billion or whether this piece of crap bankrupts your ass, you are going to put this thing around your leg for years, years and years and years. And one of the big questions that you have to ask yourself, I can't answer this for you, is why are you here? What do you want? What are your honest expectations from this experience? And do you believe your cockamamie, bat crap idea that you came up with when you're crapping on the toilet is actually going to get you there? Right? Because that's one of the things, like with startup life and starting a tech business, right? This fantasy, this is garbage, right? They sell you this fantasy. And people get addicted to that fantasy. They get addicted to that idea. Oh, wouldn't it be cool? But the thing is, again, we'll talk about, a startup grind is basically grind plus misery, right? Is when you get in the grind, it is going to be day after day after day after day after day of you grinding. And you might be grinding for days or weeks or months or, God help you, fucking years, and not feeling like you're pushing that ball very far forward. And so one of the big questions that you've got to ask yourself with this is, why are you here? Why are you doing this? What is your expectation? Again, it's one of the things I talk about, again, with Silicon Dojo, and you hear me talk about Buddhism and all this other stuff, again, all the way from my childhood. I talk about the Bodhi tree, right? Siddhartha under the Bodhi tree. And one of the reasons I talk about that stuff is that is the fundamentals of what I'm trying to do here. Will Silicon Dojo succeed? Who the hell knows? But that is what I'm trying to go for. Again, I saw the value of YouTube. Again, back in 2013 to, let's say, 2018, I was able to make a lot of money on YouTube while I helped people all around the world, and advertisers got to get their ads in front of eyeballs that might buy their product. Right? Again, the idea of free the end user. Oh my God. What if we came up with a system where we abstracted the financial component away from the education component, and what power is there, right? Again, that is something that I believe in, and believe me, if you ever get around me and I start talking, especially if I get a beer in me, I just will not shut up. This is what I believe. I believe in my heart of hearts that evil comes from fear. And fear comes from people not knowing what to do next. Again, I've done a lot of traveling. I've talked with a lot of people. Everything from soldiers to terrorists to police officers to criminals. And at the end of the day, when evil events happen, it's because people are scared. They do not know what to do next. And they do whatever they feel like they can do. Right? And again, I feel like, hey, if we open people's eyes, if we empowered them to be able to feel like they had agency in their own lives, maybe we could actually stop a shit ton of evil. Right? Again, think about all of these things that I'm talking about, and I'm doing this contemporaneously. Again, literally, this is my note. This is my note. Everything else I'm talking off of the cuff. Right? This is inherent in what I believe. And that is one of the things that you have to be thinking about with your business. What is inherent about what you believe with whatever it is that you're trying to do? Why do you believe in this? Why are you trying to accomplish whatever it is? One of the big things is stop acting stupid. It's not cool. It's annoying as hell. To be clear, like startup bro culture, I want to be crystal clear with that crap. That stuff was annoying in 2012. It was annoying as shit in 2012. It's no longer 2012. You know, right? What you're going to see is there's a lot of people out there that feel like they got to be like, cool, right? I can sell ice to Eskimos. I had a guy come up to me. He was a startup. He's like, I can sell ice to Eskimos. And he just would not shut up about selling ice to Eskimos for some reason. And the funny part, he annoyed the shit out of me. I was like, can you go away? You're so annoying. Could you just leave? And I think that's one thing, like, again, a lot of people are compartmentalized anymore, right? They're just in their little apartments, they're in their little condos, they're out in the suburbs or whatever else. You're just watching Netflix and you're reading like Super Pumped or whatever, these startup books, and you don't really get a lot of the outside world sometimes, and so you start mimicking what you see in the startup world, which isn't real, and a lot of that is just jackassery. So one of the things to be thinking about when you start your business, just let's calm down, relax. It's gonna be fine. Don't bring that whole whatever that is into what you're doing. Startup grind. I think this is an interesting one because there's this idea of what the startup grind is, right? I was at something called Tech Cocktail. I loved Tech Cocktails. Too bad they died. Anyways, there used to be something called Tech Cocktails. It was great. People would set up their little tables. They'd have little cocktail tables, and they'd set up their little booth for their startup company, and then people could drink beer and wander around to these different tables, and you could either talk with the people at tables, or you could ignore them. That was lovely. But anyways, that was the whole thing with Tech Cocktail. Anyways, I had a buddy of mine, and he had a startup business, and he was at the Tech Cocktail, and he had his assistant there, and we're sitting there drinking beer, so I was just talking to him. And I remember his assistant. He just looked at me. He looked at my buddy, had a big old smile on his face with the beer. And he was like, yeah. I just love the startup grind. And my buddy looked at me, and I looked at my buddy, and we both started laughing our asses off. Because Tech Cocktail has nothing to do with the startup grind, right? That's what you envision. Startup life. I'm going to go to CES. I'm going to go to Web Summit. I'm going to do all of this stuff. I'm going to be talking to CEOs, right? Rawr! Yeah, no. Most of your job, you're going to be sitting at a computer typing out documentation. The only thing worse than trying to figure out why your subnet mask doesn't work is trying to figure out why your profit loss statement doesn't work. That's real fucking fun. There is nothing so fun in startup life than sitting there for hours on end trying to figure out why your debits and your assets are not equaling out. The reality is, and again, this is why it goes back to the whole idea of the spaghetti monster and why are you here, is this is a grind. It is a day in, day out grind, and that's just the reality. Again, doing the classes for you folks, doing the self-study program. What do? I was like, I should do a Python self-study course. And then I spent a month creating 48 classes for a Python self-study course. And you get done with that, and you're like, hey, you know what I'm going to do next? Create a 20-part series for Bottle. And you know what I'm going to do after that? Fuck me. I don't know, it's going to be 15 parts. I think we can do it in 15 parts for SQLite. And then you know what we're going to do after that? Probably about 10 parts for Olama. You know what we're going to do after that? Probably about 20 parts for OpenAI. You know what we're going to do after that? Yeah, we all know it's got to happen at some point. I'm going to have to teach JavaScript. Now again, what is your vision for being a founder or whatever? And what does that reality sound like? And that's the thing. Again, you gotta wake up in the morning and you got to do the work that is in front of you. Sometimes it's great stuff. Again, sometimes it's schmoozing. Again, the red carpet. I've had the red carpet. There's nothing more amazing. It's amazing, right? You get flown out. Everybody knows who you are. You're shaking hands. They're taking you out to dinner. Fucking amazing. I've had that a few times. Less than a handful of times in my entire career. And that's the thing, right? That's not what your life is going to be day in and day out. Your most valuable investment. Again, one of the reasons that I'll tell you that damn near everybody is lying to you and thinking that you are a worthless piece of crap that they can just milk for every amount of value that you have out of you is that they never talk about your most valuable investment. So one of the things that comes up is, Eli, if you're so smart, right, you know all this stuff, why aren't you grinding away at the next startup idea? Again, I had my technology company, went from nothing, got 9 employees, then the Great Recession happened. Oops, I zigged when I should have zagged. I was literally moving my business in order to do customized web apps back in like 2008, but we were making so much money off of fixing computers, I didn't do that. Again, there's options in life. You've only got so many resources. I went for the thing that was paying me money. It basically disappeared overnight. Anyways, a lot of people say, Eli, if you're so smart, you know all this stuff, why aren't you doing like the next Uber? And the reality is because of my most valuable investment, my wife. I love my wife, and I don't give a fuck what you think about it, right? And here's the thing. When you spend years doing 12-hour days and 30 fucking day months, right? When you go on vacation, literally, I went on vacation. So my wife and I, we go up to the Adirondacks most years. Anyways, there was one year when we were, again, my company, we were doubling. Every 60 to 90 days. That's how. Wow. Right. Again, as I say, it was a bottle rocket startup. Right. We were just accelerating until we hit a brick wall and splattered on it. Anyways. One of the last vacations I went on before everything went to hell. I was out there, and normally we go there and we hike and we paddle and we do all this stuff. And I went there and I spent a week drinking Miller Lite MGD 64s. There are these beers that have 64 calories, which basically means they have about 3% alcohol. And I literally sat on a dock for a week And all I would do is I would buy a case of MGD 64s, and I'd just go through it till it ended, till we got another. And my wife would be like, "Do you want to hike today?" I'd be like, "No." She's like, "You want to go paddle today?" I'd be like, "No." All I wanted to do was sit and stare at absolutely nothing and drink truly shitty beers. And that's going to be one of the things to be thinking about, again, with this startup life. Because you don't got to do this, boys and girls. You don't got to be here. You talk about 12-hour days. You talk about 38 months. You talk about that grind, that incessant grind. You talk about hundreds of thousands of dollars in bills. You're pretty sure you have enough revenue to clear. Pretty sure. As long as you can figure out that profit loss statement. How long do you want to go through that? And is that worth it to you? Again, I had one person have one of these meetings with me years ago. Again, I've been doing these types of meetings for years. And he came and he'd been working on a startup that was just a shit show. They had gotten like $300,000 in funding. They had spent $200,000 creating their platform. So it was a platform that they were creating, and it didn't work. It didn't fucking work. Like, it was supposed to be done. It was supposed to be done, and it literally was not functional. It wasn't like, oh, the CSS is wrong, and the font size is bad or something. $200,000 had gone into this product, and it didn't work. And I was just talking to him, and I was talking about, should he go forward or whatever else. And literally one of the things he said, it was just like, Eli, I'm starting to get worried. When I started this, my kids are young, and so I put a couple years into this, and I thought, I'll give up a couple of years in order to get to where we're going. But he's like, yeah, this road is starting to look pretty damn long. And yeah, again, think about kids. You pop out the kids. Let's imagine you're not Elon Musk and you actually care about your kids, right? You have a kid, you have 2 kids, you go into a startup world where you're working 12 hours a day, 30-day months. 30-day months are a real damn thing. How is that going to be with your kids as they're growing up? Are you going to even be able to pay attention? So this is one of the things that you have to consider with all of this, again, with your most valuable investment. Again, how big do you want to grow? What do you actually want to do? Does this actually make sense? Or is this better a hobby or a part-time job? Again, I have buddies of mine, they work in real corporate jobs, they make really good money in corporate jobs, and then they'll do computer repair on the side. Or then they'll work on projects on the side. Like, they'll have their little consulting company, and they'll do 5 or 10 hours a week. But again, something to think about, 5 or 10 hours a week, if you're billing out at $150, $200 an hour, isn't too bad. Like, darn, I only made an extra $2,000 this week for, mucking around with people's CSS or whatever. That might be an option for you. When you start creating your company, one of the big things you need to be thinking about in the modern world is, what's the mythology of your company? Again, you're going to see all this stuff goes back to the stuff in the beginning. So one of the big issues right now in the modern world, especially if you're in the Western world, is we have an excess. One of our current problems is excess. There's too much of stuff. And this has been going on for a while. So when I was a kid, we still had issues with manufacturing. Again, when my father's car, my stepmother's car, literally, you could see through the floorboards to the interstate as they drove 60 miles an hour down the road. Like that's how bad manufacturing was back then. It was a Toyota too. It may go for 200,000 miles, but you could see the road as you drove by, right? That was a big thing, up into the 80s or the 90s, manufacturing, production. There just wasn't enough. It wasn't enough, right? If you wanted stuff, there might not be enough of it. In the modern world, especially with China coming online and Asia coming online with manufacturing and with a lot of other things, basically there is now more than enough. And that's where you will see with, let's say, with fashion retailers, basically the idea of lifestyle brands, right? Realistically, if you look at a Patagonia coat, and you look at a Mountain Hardwear coat, and you look at a North Face coat, and you look at a Walmart coat, I'll say it, they're basically the same coats. They're basically the same coats. Don't get me wrong, right? If you're actually going to do an expedition to the Antarctic, you probably want North Face or Patagonia. You probably don't want Walmart. But for most of us Walmart would be fine. You could go to Walmart and buy a $15 coat and you'd be perfectly fine. That's kind of the reality of it. And so that's where they came up with the whole idea of lifestyle brands, right? You are not buying a coat. You are not buying a car. You are not buying a cup of coffee. You are buying the Patagucci lifestyle. A certain type of person buys or wears Patagucci, don't you know? Right? Again, you'll see this with after September 11th. It was kind of interesting with the bankers up there. They started wearing Patagonia vests, right? Because they're trying to be a little bit more relaxed. So bankers in New York would have the Patagonia vests on. They didn't have Walmart vests on. They had Patagonia vests on because Patagonia matters when you're in New York. So one of the things you need to be thinking about with your company is what is the mythology of your company? Again, I talk about the Silicon Dojo. Again, you'll hear me repeat things about Bodhi trees and eat grass and other stuff, right? It's a mythology that people invest. They emotionally invest in your company and they start to care about. Because the reality is you are utterly replaceable. Again, that's one of the sad things in the modern world. Nobody wants to be a cog anymore. Everybody is certain that they are not a cog. At the exact same time, we make people ever more coggish every day. So one of the things you need to be thinking about in your company is what is the storyline? Again, are you an affluent? Are you for the affluent people, the rich people? Are you for the poor people? Are you artistic? My wife and I go to art hotels. Why? Again, it's the whole thing. Like hotels, like we go to South Beach. So we're just in South Beach. We're going to go back to South Beach. Love South Beach. Anyways, there's an art hotel we go to there. And again, like think about this is a really real thing. Like, so when you go to South Beach, there are a gazillion and a half hotels. And what do they offer? They offer a room, and they offer a bed, and they offer a pool, and they offer beach access. They all do. And so one of the questions is why do you pick one hotel over another? So there's one hotel down there, if you know it, it's called Sagamore. I like it. It's kind of crappy, to be honest with you, but it has weird art. We go to Sagamore. It's the art hotel. Why do we go there? Because it's a square box with a bed in it, but it has some quirky art when you're walking out to the pool. And that's one of the things to be thinking about for your company. Again, what is the style? What is the branding? What is the mythology? What is the story behind your company that people can invest in? Zig Ziglar used to say, "Sell the sizzle, not the steak." Anybody can get red meat anywhere for any price. That's not where you're selling at a fancy steakhouse. At a fancy steakhouse, you're selling that ambiance. Again, lifestyle brands, and then codifying your stories. Again, especially as you start getting employees, especially as you start growing. If you have a website, again, with blogs and that type of thing, start writing down the stupid stories that you have for the mythology of your company. Again, even if you're small, like what do we care about? We focus on nonprofit organizations that support, I don't know, lost chihuahuas in the Ozarks. I don't know, right? Think about that kind of thing. Also, if you have any questions, you can raise your hand. Do that in the Zoom thing. Culture. So one of the big things you're going to be thinking about with your company, again, as you grow, if you're going to grow beyond yourself, one of the things you need to be really thinking about a lot is culture. Like, what is the culture of your company? This is one of the big problems that we see in the tech world right now, is that most of these large tech companies eviscerated their cultures over about the past half decade, and now they are paying the consequences for that. So what do we mean with culture, right? So we talk about diversity and all this other kind of horse crap, and what does that mean for you as a founder? What does that mean for you as a business owner? And basically with culture, what culture is what are the shared viewpoints of your institution that everybody, by and large, agrees with, right? Because the big thing is, especially with a technology business, is you cannot micromanage people. You just cannot micromanage people, right? Again, as I've told you, if you want to go out there and get a job, the big thing is to show that you found problems to solve, that you implemented solutions to those problems, and then you documented the solution. What does that tell me as a business owner? This person can see where there's an issue, they can find a solution to the issue, can implement it, and deploy it, right? That's going to be the important thing. And so when you deal with tech businesses, the reality again, whether you're building websites, or companies building websites, or fixing computers or whatever else, it is very, very, very difficult to micromanage people. So what you need in your company is you need your employees to do what you would have told them to do, hopefully better, but you didn't even know that it was an issue, right? So basically the employee, they get the computer and they're not looking at the employee handbook and they're not looking at charts and all that kind of stuff. They just intrinsically know what to do once that computer comes in. This is how we do things. This is how we design things. This is how we build things. This is how we communicate with our customers, the whole 9 yards. Again, we think about culture. Again, think about a factory. Think about a factory, right? You have a factory, you have shifts. There's a 9 o'clock shift and a 5 o'clock shift and a midnight shift, right? Part of that culture is that punctuality matters. Punctuality is the mark of the man. Whatever. Right, it's stupid to me. Oh, yeah, whatever. But it's important, right? If you have a factory and you have hundreds or thousands of employees, the culture needs to be that punctuality matters. Because what you think, again, if you're an employee, and you're like, I just showed up 10 minutes late. I don't know why everybody's so mad at me. I just showed up 10 minutes late. Here's the thing. They're not really mad, particularly that you showed up 10 minutes late. But if you got hundreds of employees, and 10% of that employee base decides that punctuality doesn't matter that much, all of a sudden your factory is going to become a disaster, right? You need people to believe that showing up on time is intrinsic to what it is to be an adult. Real adults show up on time, right? That's a part of culture, right? If you're gonna have a tech business, again, we're cats. We're cats. If you tell us to show up on time, you know what I can guarantee? We're not going to do that. We're going to do something else. That's probably not going to work out for us. But what is important, right, with the tech business? What's important with the tech business is solving the problem. No excuses. The problem is solved. Again, when I have my company, you either solve the problem or you give an actionable plan on how to solve the problem. So again, sometimes when we were dealing with customers, sometimes it's the ISP's problem, right? We go there, we troubleshoot the network. It ain't us, it's the ISP. And so you give the information to the client. Here's your ISP. Here's the contact information for the ISP. Here's your account number with the ISP, blase, blase, blase. And if you'd like to pay us $100 an hour, I'll sit on the phone and deal with this problem for you, right? That's an actionable response. And so that's one of the things to be thinking about. Again, if you're gonna have your tech company, what is the culture there? I don't care whether you do the work at midnight or noon or whatever else. I don't care if you work 36 hours in a row and then go off to Ibiza for the next 4, right? As long as the work gets done. And that's going to be something that's going to come up in culture. And again, that's one of the big problems we see with the large tech companies right now is they just hired so many people that who knows why they're there? Nobody knows why they're there. And it creates a bit of a disaster. Again, when you think about things like culture, how you interact with people, right? Are you touchy-feely with people? Are you strong and aggressive? Are you masculine like Mark Zuckerberg is with people? Again, how should people communicate within your company? Again, there's no right answer to this, right? You can be nasty and mean and scream at each other. That might get you a lawsuit, but I don't know, it might work. You can be all touchy-feely and nice. But one of the things you have to be thinking about, again, like the communication style and how people are going to be interacting with each other. Again, that's one of the big things, especially with small companies, is you have a really brusque person, and then you have a really acquiescent person, and that's just a disaster. One of my biggest disasters as far as culture is concerned, oh my golly, I hired a person that was awesome as far as their resume was concerned. They retired early from tech, from the banking sector. They had been a VP, a vice president. They had made a lot of money, and they retired. And for some reason, I'm like a light to lost geeks. Geeks show up at my doorstep. I don't know why. Anyways, this guy showed up at my doorstep, and we were doing the computer repairs and all that kind of thing. And I was like, I'm looking at his resume, and literally, he had been on like the leading edge of implementing like credit card verification. for banks, like in the 90s, right? So I'm like looking at his resume. I'm like, why are you here? Why do you want to repair computers? And he said, oh, I'm already retired, and so I'd like to see how like a small business operates and that kind of thing. And I need to do something because again, when you retire at 41, it's surprisingly boring. So I hired him against my better judgment. Literally, when I hired him, I was like, I'm really worried that you're so far. It's too high for this particular job, but he seemed nice. He was a good person to talk to, so I hired him. That was a disaster. So because he was knowledgeable, because he knew all this stuff, and again, I had like the 9 employees or whatever, and so like when there was an issue, and I couldn't answer a question from one of my other employees, I'd be like, hey, why do you go talk to what's his name, and he can explain this to you. Again, whatever it was we were doing, and later. I would go talk to the employee and be like, okay, so what's his name explain to you? And he was like, he just gave me crap for like 30 minutes. He just gave me crap and told me my problem was stupid for 30 minutes. So, for the love of God. And yeah, my other employees like would refuse to go talk to this really amazing technology professional that had retired young because he was such an utter pain in the ass to deal with. Things you got to be thinking about, like with culture. Like literally, can your employees just go ask another employee a stupid question? Let's see here. Again, one of the things, babies learn how to move their hands. One of the big things you need to be thinking about is leaders. You need to learn how to move other people's hands. Again, they talk about this with our development process. When we're babies, we don't actually understand that these things are ours. We're like, why does this thing keep hitting me? I don't know, you get to be like 6 months old and then you realize that they're yours. And then at some point you realize that you can work them together and then disaster happens. Anyways, one of the interesting things is as you go along, what's kind of curious is once you start getting into leadership positions, is you start learning you cannot just control these hands. You start learning how to control other people's hands. And that's one of the things you really need to be thinking about with your business. If you're going to be growing a business beyond just you as a consultant, one of the pieces of advice I got years ago is that, your job as a business owner is to work on the business, not the work, right? If you're a business owner, if you got employees, right? You got 5+ employees, your job is not to do the computer repair. Your job is not to do the web design or doing that kind of crap. Your job is to make sure the business functions. And part of that then means is you have to learn with culture and training and everything else how to get your employees, how to get your staff to actually do the things that you want them to do. People respond to what you do, not what you say. So basically how you interact with your business, how you interact with the people, that is what folks are going to respond to. You can say things all day long. But again, especially when you're working 12 hours a day. When you're working 12 hours a day, in 30-day months, your employees and everybody else are going to see you, good times and bad. How you interact with them is going to matter, not just what little sound bites you put out. Culture is part of the business mythology. Don't be you at work. Again, I find this fascinating. Again, especially nowadays. I've been talking with a lot of people. Again, now that DEI is blowing up horribly. Anyways, that was an interesting idea. One of the things I talk with, people that don't look like me, different genders, all of that kind of stuff. And one of the things that I find fascinating is when I talk with like diverse people, they're like, Eli, you don't understand, Eli. Not all of us want to be uptight white guys all the time. We want to be ourselves. Which is so horrible. It's so horrible. Like, aw, you misunderstand the situation so much. You don't even understand why that's slightly funny. Let me tell you a secret, boys and girls. White boys don't want to be whatever the fuck we are most of the time. You conform to your culture so that you can get by. The clothing that you wear is the personal brand. How you speak, the mannerisms, all of that kind of stuff. That is an act. When you go into your business, when you create your business, you come in with a personality and you keep that personality whether you like it or not. Because that's what people are going to be interacting with. Again, when they're interacting with your brand, when they're interacting with that mythology, they are going to expect you to interact with them in a specific way. If you have customers, and you've had these customers for years, when they interact with you, they are going to expect you to interact with them in a particular way. They're not going to give a damn whether your wife has cancer. They're not going to care whether you can barely pay the bills. They're not going to care about all that other stuff. What they're going to care about is they walked in the door. They are giving you their product or whatever to repair or do whatever with. They are expecting an interaction with you that matches the types of interactions they've had in the past. And so that's going to be one of the big things too. Again, especially as you as the owner, especially as you as the founder, when you walk on in the door, you have to be on. It is an act. It is an act, boys and girls. I don't care what your skin color is. I don't care what your gender is. It is an act, right? And that's what you'll see if you ever deal with executives. If you ever deal with executives and everybody's kind of relaxed, you'll notice the door will be closed. The door will be closed and they'll be talking with you. It'll be like pretty normal, right? And then all of a sudden they'll get the call or whatever. And then you'll see it. You'll see it. Like, fuck. Nah, sorry, Eli. Got to deal with something. And they'll sit there for a moment and they'll breathe in and they'll breathe out. And you will see the personality that they were just sharing with you. It will get shed as they walk out the door. And the reason is because on the other side of the door, people are expecting a certain character. They're not expecting you. And that's one of the sad things. Again, I feel bad for the young people nowadays. They're like, my identity matters. It doesn't. It doesn't. Nobody cares. Let's see here. Employees will pass the culture down to the next generation. Again, the next big thing to really be thinking about is as you get employees, as you get help, is that your very first employees are going to be the most important employees for your company and for your growth and for your scaling, because they are going to pass your culture on to the next generation. If you do an ass job hiring your first 5 employees, you might as well pack it up and start your next startup. Because it's going to be a crap show, right? Again, everybody should more or less be on the same page. If you are an AI company, your first 5 employees better worship AI. They better believe AI is the future, and anybody who doesn't use AI is a stupid-ass Luddite, and it just makes complete sense that AI is more dangerous than nuclear weapons. Right? Because, you know, if you have an AI company and you're hiring your first 5 employees and 4 of them think AI is the next Jesus, and one's like, yeah, I don't know, that's a good feature set. I mean, I'm not against AI, but obviously it's not intelligent or anything. All right, well, the problem is you're going to have 4 people that are going to be hiring and mentoring like-minded folks. And you're going to have 1 person creating a whole department in your company. That's not really sure this company really makes a whole lot of sense. Again, if you have 1 employee out of 5, and they seem like a dissenter, or they don't seem like they're on the same page, that may not seem bad. But what happens when it's 10 out of 50? What happens if it's 50 out of 200? What happens if you have a large number of people in your company I just aren't really sure about, what your company is doing. And so that's going to be why the culture and everything for your first employees is going to be so significant. Tom comes in 48 minutes into the video and Tom shows up. You might be worried about failing if we actually had grades. Okay, the next bullet point to go through is talking about founder types. So this is the big thing. And again, when I talk about tech founders and I talk about entrepreneurs here, they're kind of interchangeable for this moment. We will talk about the difference between startups and businesses at some bullet point further down the list. So one of the big things is when people are creating their companies, everybody wants co-founders nowadays. Co-founders. Because it's scary out there. So you might as well go in a group. One of the first things that I'll say with co-founders is try to keep it as small as possible. That's not just my opinion. Is also what a lot of people say. Because remember, profits have to be split amongst all your co-founders. So if you've got 1 founder, they get 100% of the profits. If you have 2 co-founders, they get 50% each. You get 3, 33% each. 4, 25% each. 5, 20% each. One of the problems you can have with some of these companies, and you'll see them walk up with 9 co-founders. Yeah, fuck. That means you've got to split the profit 9 ways. Not only do you have to split the profit 9 ways, but you have 9 people who think their opinions matter. That's not a good place to be. One of the things to be thinking about, again, when you have these founders, is one of the questions is how are decisions going to be made? And again, the culture, going back to a couple of bullet points, the culture, do people more or less agree on the direction of the business? Here's the thing, right? If I am the founder and I have an employee disagrees with me, now to be clear, that is not actually as easy a problem as you think it is. I know what I should say. Well, if that employee disagrees with me, I'll just fire them. Yeah, that's what they say in the movies. That employee might have all the passwords for your infrastructure. You might not want to fire them. Anyways, but here's the thing. When an employee gives you their advice, gives you their opinion, you can sit there and you can sip your coffee and you can nod at the exact same time you're wondering, when will this misery end? And then they finally tell you their opinions and you go, I will take that under advisement. And you get them the fuck out the door. And then you start wondering whether or not they need a replacement. Here's the issue, is when you have a founder, they're a founder. They are a part owner in this idiocy. So you've got this idiotic idea that's probably not going to work in the first place. You're working 12 hours a day, 30 days a month to push this damn ball forward. And then you have multiple people trying to decide the best way to push that ball forward. And you can come in to a lot of crap shit. One of the big things you're going to see in business is that many times there are no right ways to do something. Again, that's a very important thing to understand. Is there's no right way. There's no one way to do anything. You can do anything. Again, like when I had my computer company, right? I could have gone and built computer furniture. Why not? You can do whatever the hell you want with the business. How you do your pricing plans. Do you do monthly? Do you do a subscription fee? Do you do time and material? How you do with employees? Do you hire employees? Do you hire contractors? Advertising. Do you put money into Facebook or do you put money into Twitter? Right. Generally, there's not really right answers to any of this. But especially when you're an owner, you get very invested in your opinion. My opinion, and I am owner. The problem is, you start getting multiple people with their own opinions as owners, and loggerheads can ensue. So one of the things you need to be thinking about is when you have these different founder types, make sure everybody is more or less on the same page, at least how you're working out for the next year or so, and try to figure out how to actually be able to make decisions. When you're dealing with a technical co-founder, so for a lot of you, technical co-founder is the thing that you might want to be. I'm going to tell you something. You need to be able to build a damn MVP, minimum viable product, or at the very least, a frickin' prototype you can show investors or whatever else. One of the things I do not understand in the modern world, and I've seen this time and time again, is technical co-founders that might not be able to install an operating system. Talking about that one person that was talking to me years ago, again, burned $200,000, worried about whether he's going to miss his kid's childhood and the whole 9 yards. They were building, the entire platform was being built in PHP. So again, this was about 10 years ago anyway, and PHP is a dirt simple language. You can learn PHP in 5 days and, be doing something with it in 2 weeks or so. It's a very, very simple programming language. So anyways, this platform was being built out in PHP, and so I was sitting there and I was talking to the guy. I was like, okay, well, you got a technical co-founder, right? And he's like, oh yeah, man, this technical co-founder is amazing. And he just kept talking about how freaking amazing this technical co-founder was. Well, yeah, fine, whatever. I'm like, yeah, okay, calm down. Are we done yet? Oh. Okay, well, since your technical co-founder is so amazing, just have him audit the PHP code to see what's going on, right? Is the issue with the PHP code when you're connecting with APIs or whatever, you're hitting weird-ass rate limits that that the coders may not realize exist? Or if he audits the PHP code, is it just a spaghetti mess and it's a disaster and you might want to sue him? And I was just like, look, and that was like, again, it's one of those funny things in life when you just like throw something out and you're not really expecting a discussion. You're just like, oh, hey, the solution here? Yeah, just get your CTO to audit that. Yeah, just audit the code. He was like, Eli, he doesn't know PHP. Like, but your entire platform is built on PHP. Why do you have a technical co-founder? And again, hundreds of thousands of dollars in investment, $200,000 in spend, and your technical co-founder does not know the primary language the platform is being built on. And then he went into this whole big thing about, no, well, how he was really valuable is, here's the thing. If you're going to be a technical co-founder, you got to bring the damn product to the table, right? Next dog dating app, right? Somebody comes to you, like, I've got $5 million to create a dog dating app. You better look them in the eye and be like, you know what? Give me 2 weeks. We're going to have that prototype of the dog dating app out there, and we are going to get dogs laid. Or whatever you want to do, right? That's the technical co-founder. If you're going to hire a technical co-founder, they need to be able to build an MVP. They need to be able to build an MVP. If they can't, get them the hell out. Now, if this is scale, now don't get me wrong, if this is AI, you're doing an AI thing, you get $500 million in funding, most likely they can't build an MVP for that. But again, their level should be of the ability where they can get it to MVP or prototype, and you don't have to worry about it. Again, that's one thing to think about with these different types of founders, whether it's the technical, whether it's the business, whether it's the industry, is these should be little compartments. You hand the technical work to the technical co-founder. You hand the business work to the business co-founder. You hand the industrial stuff to the industry guy, and then you would just walk away. And it should just be done. Again, our field is getting shit done. To be clear, if you are a technical co-founder and you can't get shit done, I hate you. I hate you so much. I've had to have so many stupid conversations because of people like you. So anyways, that's what a technical co-founder does. A business co-founder. Oh, these are disasters. These are disasters. Oh, what does a business person really do anyway? Again, it's interesting in the modern world, again, running a business and having done this for years. It's funny. Nobody ever argues with me about my opinions on AWS or Azure, right? Again, other than technical people, right? Most people, like when I say we use the Bottle web app framework here at Silicon Dojo, I have never had one of my family members go, you're teaching them Bottle? I really think Flask would be more appropriate for your students. Because here's the thing, technical stuff is hard. It's hard. Again, I told you I spent one day yesterday documenting just how to deploy Bottle. And that's just the deployment process. That's not building the damn thing. And so that's the thing. Like, especially when you're building a tech company, again, network infrastructure and architectures and coding languages. Most people know they don't know that. Most people know they don't know that. Here's the weird thing about business. It's also with like psychology, and you'll see this a lot in the modern world, is people will not shut up about their opinions on psychology, right? Everybody is a sociopath or a nerd, what is it? Anyways, right? There's all the psychology. Right? Everybody shuts it because for some reason, people think that they have the ability to diagnose mental disorders in others. The weirdest freaking thing in the world, but it's true. Again, you just go onto social media, like everybody is like, this is their social. Anyways, the same problem is true with business, right? Business seems easy. Business seems like anybody can do it. So one of the problems is you have people that talk themselves into something being like a business co-founder, and then they're absolutely and utterly worthless because, wait for it, being a business co-founder is a real job. It is a real job, and it also sucks. This all sucks. This all sucks. Anyways, when you're going to be a business co-founder, right? Basically, my opinion is you need to be able to bring $500,000 to the table. By hook or by crook, you're going to walk in with a $500,000 check. And what do I mean by that? That is the entire point of a business co-founder. Money is the point. The point of a technical co-founder is a product. The point of a business co-founder is money. And again, that might come from grants. That might come from investments. That might come... You know what? If they're able to write a $500,000 check and plunk it on the table, God bless, you'll be my business co-founder too. You brought me $500,000, right? Because money is going to drive everything. Money is going to drive what you can pay for infrastructure. Money is going to pay advertising costs. Client acquisition costs is actually absolutely going to kill you. Money is going to be everything. So when you have a business person walk in and say, I want to do the business, they have to do the business. And the shocking thing here is, again, business sucks. Again, it's kind of funny. Again, that whole idea like, oh, I wish I was one of those people, right? When you see executives and they're going to parties all the time. Right, they're going to this party, they're going to that party, they're flying off to this country, they're flying off to that country. Right, it looks amazing. Right, it looks amazing. Oh, I wish I was that. But here's the thing. Imagine if almost every single night you had to go to an event. Imagine when you went to that event, you had to schmooze. You did not get to sit up against the wall and people watch or whatever else. You go to that event and you have to essentially get business cards. You have to meet people, you have to know people, and you have to be known, and you have to get deals flowing. And you'll be out just as long as it takes to try to get some of those deals flowing. And then you wake up in the morning, whether you get in at midnight, hopefully, or whether you get in at 4 o'clock in the morning or noon sometimes. Anyways, then you go to sleep, and then you wake up, and then you got these business cards, and then you got to send all these things about, hey, it was a good meeting you last night, maybe we can catch up, blase, blase, blase. And then you do it again, and then you do it again, and then you do it again, and then you do it again. And there's nothing quite like the misery on hopping to a flight to go to a party when all you really want to do is go home and go to bed. I don't want beer, I don't want alcohol, I don't want fancy people, I don't want sexy women, I don't want flashy shit. You know what I want? A bed. I want a bed. But that's the thing, you're business people, again, if you're working those 12-hour days, again, the technical co-founder, you're going to spend 12 hours coding shit, building infrastructure, whatever else. That business co-founder, 12 hours a day of schmoozing. Never stop schmoozing, because they got to get you $500,000 by hook or by crook. So if you're going to have a business person, that is their mark. Then you have the industry co-founder. So basically what the industry co-founder is they know the industry that you're walking into, right? So let's say the Ubers of the world, right? So if you're going to create the next Uber or the next Lyft, basically industry co-founder would be somebody, they already worked at Uber or they worked at Lyft. They already worked for a major taxi company. So let's say you have, a young guy, a young person, and one of their parents owns a legacy taxi company, and they can see the writing on the wall, right? Their inheritance is dwindling by the day. They get the point. But they're like, look, right, my family has been in the taxi company for 100 years. I understand how the transportation and dealing with taxi drivers and all this kind of stuff works, the whole 9 yards. I understand how regulations work, all of that kind of thing. I think if I had somebody to be able to build a platform for us and somebody that could focus on the money and all that, I believe I can bring in all the players, again, the taxi drivers and the vendors and everything else. I think we could really create a competitor to Uber, Lyft, or whatever within this particular geographic area, right? That would be the industry person. And basically the industry co-founder, they are going to know the market sector that you're going into, whether it's marketing, whether it's healthcare, whatever, right? Everything has a language. Everything has a way to talk. You need the Rolodex. Again, how does the business person get to schmooze with the CEO of, let's say, a healthcare company? Well, if you have an industry co-founder that happens to know that CEO, that CEO comes over to our house, every couple of months. Sure, I can give you a call. Hey, Bob, I'm doing this startup with a couple of my buddies. I think this would be really cool for your company. And I send our business person over to have a talk with you. And then the business person goes over and has a talk with them. I would argue, if you're going to have an industry co-founder, they need to be able to bring you a dozen beta testing companies. Basically, a dozen companies that are going to say, yes, we are willing to do the college try on the piece of crap product that you're trying to sell us, and go from there. So those are the types of founders and the types to be thinking about. But again, when you get co-founders for any kind of tech business, really any kind of business, you need to delineate what the different co-founders' responsibilities are. And then you need to identify, why are they actually valuable for what you're doing? Because again, a business co-founder that just goes to a lot of parties and drinks a lot of alcohol, yeah, that's something. That's something. It's not quite the startup grind. Let's talk about business versus startup. So this is an important thing to be thinking about. Again, you'll hear me talk about tech businesses and you'll hear me talk about startups. So I had a tech business. This is a fever dream. Silicon Dojo is a fever dream. We don't know what this is. We're not going to talk about that. This is in the other realm of what you do. Anyways, Louis Rossman, when he solders motherboards, he has a tech business. That's a business. Startup company. Startup companies are Lyft, Uber, whatever, the next dog dating app. So what is the difference between these two types of things? So basically what a business is, when you talk about a tech business's primary source of revenue is going to be what they ship, right? So when I repaired computers, we made profit off of the computers that were sold, and that went into my back pocket and paid employees and all that kind of stuff, right? When Louis Rossman solders motherboards, he takes that money and he puts it in his back pocket. That is where the profit comes from, right? If you want to get more money, if you want to make more money, then you got to figure out how to either ship more widgets, fix more things, or you need to step up the value of the product that you are going to be selling, right? That's basically it. So basically, when you're talking about a business, you're talking about good old-fashioned profit loss statements. Startups are not the same damn thing. And I want you to be crystal clear with this. Again, we start talking about like startup world, and this gets mixed up a lot. Like startup founders call themselves entrepreneurs. To be clear, startup founders are not entrepreneurs, and tech entrepreneurs are not startup founders. They're misnomers. We are using the words because we like the words, right? Startup founders want to feel like they're entrepreneurs, and entrepreneurs want to feel like they're founders. That's not really how it works, right? Basically, what you're talking about when you're talking about a startup company is the idea of the startup company is that there is going to be an exit event. The real money, whatever play money is on the table, the real money is going to be when you exit. So what the exit means is maybe an IPO, probably not an IPO, but maybe an IPO, right? You go on to the New York Stock Exchange, you start selling your stock for $10 a share, it pops up to $100 a share, and you just start selling that shit as soon as your lock-in period is over, right? Mark Zuckerberg did not become a gazillionaire off of the profit, off of the ads that are being sold on Facebook. Mark Zuckerberg became a gazillionaire off of the share value for Facebook. Again, just to point this out with Elon Musk didn't become a gazillionaire from the profits of Tesla. He became a gazillionaire off of the value of Tesla as a company, right? Businesses, you're looking at the value of the product sold. Startups, essentially, you're looking at the value of the company itself. And so you may have an IPO, probably not going to have an IPO, but you may have an IPO. Most likely, you're going to be acquired, right? There's going to be some kind of acquisition process. You're going to create a little startup company. Google or whoever else is going to like what you're doing. They're going to offer you $100 million. And again, you did not become a multimillionaire because of the widgets you sold. You became a multimillionaire because Google handed you $100 million. And so that's one of the things to be thinking about with the startup. And that's why startups burn through money so much quicker than businesses. And this is something you have to be thinking about. Again, we talk about runway. So what the runway means is how long can your company survive with the amount of money that it currently has? Right? So if you're a business, maybe you get a loan or whatever else, you get $200,000, you put $200,000 on the table. Okay, how long can you go with $200,000 before you burn out? And so with businesses, right, the idea is you try to get a product you can sell as quickly as possible so that you can get profit. And then as you get that revenue and profit, you start putting money in, right? So as money goes out, you can then start putting some money in. And the idea is you go from like a $200,000 war chest, as you would say, maybe it goes down to $100,000 or $50,000, but hopefully you find something that you can sell, and then that war chest starts growing and growing and growing and growing and growing again. Right, you're going to be building that value off of products sold. With a startup, you need the value off of the company itself, and that's why they burn through money. And that's one of the reasons our tech industry is such a damn disaster currently. Because the idea is you're not going to make the money off the product itself. Again, most likely somebody is going to acquire you. And so what you need to do is you don't need to figure out how to make your product more valuable. You need to figure out how to make your company more valuable. And that's where you'll hear things about intellectual property, right? If I can hire enough engineers and we are targeting a particular sector that has an opening in it, we might be able to get intellectual property. Right? Again, patents, right? A patent is a legal monopoly essentially on an idea. And so what if again, AI is the big thing right now? So what if we can target a sector in AI that nobody else currently realizes is valuable? right? Let's say there's a thousand ways of doing AI, right? And so what if you're like, you know what I think is really valuable? I think we do this one particular way of doing artificial intelligence. I think that's the future. And so one of the things you can do is you can just dump a tremendous amount of money and try to solve that one particular problem. You get a patent on how to solve that one particular problem, and then you may not know how to monetize it. Like, okay, but how do you make I don't know. Who are you going to sell it to? I don't know. But you know what I do know? I do know Google can't move forward unless they have the ability to use this process. So I am not going to make a profit off of trying to sell this crap to a million different people. I am going to sit on this patent until Google realizes that they're screwed, and then we're going to sell it for a measly $250 million, right? And that's basically what's happening with a lot of these startups, is the startups essentially get created. It's almost like their own independent departments for companies. I had a buddy of mine who sold one of his startups. Exodus, his startup. He did call it an exit too. That was adorable. Anyway, it was an exit. It was an exit. Anyways, he created this company. Yeah, it was a good idea. Biz dev was a bitch. Again, sometimes the businesses, like the technical idea was fabulous. Everything about it was great, except business development. Business development was just not going to happen. Anyways, created this thing, whatever. Wound up, one of the big tech companies ended up acquiring his startup. And I went to have a beer with him. And I was like, dude, I don't understand. Because again, like nothing that he had done was like that remarkable. Apparently it was good code. I knew people had seen the code. Apparently it was like really good code and it was all solid and all that. But it wasn't like fucking mind blowing. It wasn't AI or anything. And I was like, why did this big tech corporation acquire your startup? And again, a curious thing to be thinking about. Because the big tech corporation that acquired a startup literally had no budget for creating new projects. So, if you were a lead engineer for this big tech company and you had a great idea of the next dog dating app, you could get literally zero funding to create the next dog dating app. On the other hand, if you could find a startup that already had revenue, that already had users to some degree, you could acquire that dog dating app, bring it into the fold in order to grow it. True story. And this is the kind of ridiculousness that we get in the business world. It's fun. So anyways, that's the idea between the business and the startup. The value of the startup is in the company itself. The value in the business is in the products that are actually being sold. And again, how you do this, these are very different things. And that's why startup life seems so sexy. Because yes, they are burning money. Again, it's Adam, what's his name? WeWork guy. Anyways, that was the interesting thing. There's a book about WeWork. Read it. It's very good about the startup world. But the guy who runs SoftBank basically gave Adam Newman, funded Adam Newman and WeWork, and was basically handing them money. Right? And the interesting thing was, initially, again, because Adam Newman has a crap reputation at this point, pretty well deserved. But anyways, but the curious thing is, back in the day when he started getting funding from SoftBank, he actually tried to be judicious with spending his money. Because again, runways and all that kind of stuff. And basically the SoftBank guy literally told him, I did not invest in your company for it to sit in the bank. I can put money in the bank if I want to. I invested in your company for you to spend it. And so that is actually one of the reasons why WeWork got into the wave pool business and the kindergarten business and so many other dumbass things, is they had an investor that was literally driving money into WeWork, telling Adam Newman that his primary responsibility was to spend the money so that apparently they could take over the world. Anyways, we saw how well that worked out. But yeah, difference between business and startup. Let's see here. When to become real. So this becomes the real thing, the big thing. Because this is one thing that people love. Again, man, Eli, grind sounds hard. Yes, it's hard. It sucks. You know what's not hard? You know what doesn't suck? Sitting there and drinking beers and planning for the future. Right? One of the big things with going out there and actually doing something, actually creating your business, is it's a lot easier to dream and it's a lot more fun to dream than it is to actually grind. So one of the big things to be thinking about is on this whole process of becoming real and actually going out there and shipping product is you need to do something immediately. If you watch today's video and I have not convinced you, although I have tried, to walk the fuck away. If at the end of this video you're like, no, I think this founder thing, that route's for me, then you know what you need to do tonight? You need to work on a product that you're going to be shipping. A product. You don't be working on a damn business card. You don't need to be working on a damn website. You don't need to be working about your brand colors or any of that other horse crap. Tonight, you need to start the grind. Whatever the hell your grind is. And one of the big problems that I see with a lot of people is they're like, Eli, I'll start doing it once I have everything laid out. Eli, once I have my FEIN number, Eli. Once I have my QuickBooks, Eli. Once I have my accountant, Eli. Once I have my lawyer, Eli. Once I have my contracts, Eli. Once I have the website and this and that and the other. And you're doing all this work and you literally have no idea if anybody gives a damn about what you're trying to sell. Right? Why? Because that's easy. That's fun. Right? When you go to the cocktail party and you're talking to all your friends about what you're doing. You're like, oh yeah, I'm building the website today for my startup. Oh, that's so amazing. Oh, look at these business cards, right? You're just, aren't they cool? You know what's not cool to talk about at the cocktail party? Hey, what do you do today? Fuck. I was sitting there in Libre office all day, and I was, I was creating this class on deploying bottle. Yeah, it's kind of interesting, VS Code can directly connect into that DigitalOcean instance, and that's not fun. Say, oh, what did you do to Eli? I did another 10 parts on a SQL class, right? And so one of the big problems is people get into that whole, no, you need to do it tonight. Fucking night. You want to repair a computer? Literally, as soon as this video is over, call up grandma. Grandma, I'm fixing your computer. No, I'm fine. No, I'm fixing it. Grandma. Again, whatever it is you're doing, start doing it. Then, along with this too, is when to become real. Again, because that's the thing, right? Everybody hyper-focuses on becoming real, and then they don't get around to shipping product, which is such a 2025 issue. Anyways, what you need to focus on is figuring out whether or not anybody gives a damn about your product. Again, like there's one of the things that I say, again, it's horrible to say, but it's true. If you gave your product away for free, would anybody take it? And I guarantee, for about half of you, if you try to give away your dumb idea for free, nobody would want it at all, right? And so you go out there, and again, you just start doing it. Again, when I started my little tech company, it wasn't a tech company. I put up pull tab signs and drove. Where is it? Oh, I get it. You know how I started my first tech company? Hold on. I still got it here. Oh, this is my first tech company right here. This is a little Navy bag that I stole from my stepfather while he was still alive because it was cool. And you steal cool things from your stepfather. It's just one of those things that you do. Anyways. I had this bag. In it, I had one of those fancy screwdrivers where you could switch the little bit things around, because that was a new thing. And I had a CD case with like 10 CDs of like pirated Windows 95 and pirated Windows 98 and pirated Microsoft Office. And that's how I started my company. Put up pull tab signs and knocked on doors and started repairing crap. And then realized, oh, holy crap, there's a lot of money in this. And one thing led to another. And so that's one of the things. For you folks, just go out there and start doing it. Find out, again, if anybody will put money down. One of the big problems that you're going to have in life is people that say they care about you. And again, they do care about you. Anyways. They care about you. They care about you so much that they will lie to you about really stupid things. Right? So you're going to have this idea for your dog dating app. Right? You got this idea for this dog dating app, and you know dog owners. Right? Your mom has 5 dogs, and your stepfather has 5 dogs, and your dad has dogs, and your sister has dogs, and your best friend has dogs, and your spouse has dogs. Everybody you know has dogs. You're like, this is great. I'm an industry expert. I am surrounded by dog people. And so here's the thing that's going to happen. It's going to be horrible. You are going to go to all those dog owners. And you're going to say that care about you. They know you. And they love you. And they respect you. And they want the best for you. And you're going to say, yeah, I'm thinking about creating this dog dating app. What if people paid $5 a month or whatever? And they were able to have dog play dates. You know, honestly, the more I talk about this over the years, the less I think this is a shit idea. But anyways, what if, people could come together for these dog dates and they could pay a subscription? And here's what I'm going to tell you. Your mom is going to be like, wow, I am so happy I have a kid as smart as you. I knew you were brilliant. And your father's going to be like, well, I guess I can see the value in that. And your sister is going to be like, oh, you're going to be the next Mark Zuckerberg. Right? Everybody, they're going to tell you how amazing this is. My God, you came up with this idea for a dog dating app. You are the next Mark Zuckerberg. And here's the thing, right? So since you're going to be the next Mark Zuckerberg, if I'm Mark Zuckerberg, I need an accountant, and I need a lawyer, and I need business. Oh, I should probably get a little bit of office space too. And you're gonna pay for it, because all this shit costs money. You're gonna pay for all these accoutrements. Because, if you're gonna be the next Mark Zuckerberg, you gotta do it right. And then you're finally going to get to the point after you've burned $20,000, $50,000, $100,000, maybe more. Right? You're going to get to the point where you actually build that MVP, and you use the Square API. Apparently Square API is very good. You use the Square API so you can take payments or whatever. And then you go to your mom. You're like, Mom, yeah. So we got the prototype. We got the MVP up. So all I'm going to need from you is to create an account. Pay you the $5 a month or whatever. And yeah, you'll be our first customer. Oh, you want me to put my credit card information into your app? No, so you're a brilliant son. I just know I'm not comfortable putting my credit card information in, but I know I'm just old. Other people will be. And then you'll go to your father. Be like, oh, no, I heard of these Chinese hackers. How are you going to prevent the Chinese hackers from hacking my webcam? Like, what the fuck? That's not how this shit works. What? And then you're going to go to your sister. Be like, well, I would love to pay $5 a month, but, we got all these expenses, and got dog food and all that. We just can't afford $5 a month. And so after you spend all this money becoming real, what you're going to find out is nobody wants to put their credit card number into your dumbass idea after you've spent a shit ton of money. And that's one of the things with becoming real, is you start shipping the product. You have an idea for a dog dating app? Build that dog dating app tonight. You're like, Eli, dog dating sounds great. Good. It's Friday. Next Friday, I want to see your prototype. You have 1 week to create a prototype. You have 1 week to get your first user. What? And again, think about it. It's just code. And DigitalOcean or whatever doesn't cost you much. DigitalOcean costs you $6 a month for an instance. You can literally write your code for free. It's your time. You can throw it onto DigitalOcean for $6 a month, and then you can offer your dog dating app for free. For free. Don't even need the credit card information yet. Just see if anybody will create an account. Once they do, then you can figure out about becoming real. One of my big arguments, again, with businesses or whatever, is essentially when it starts becoming like a part-time job. Like, if you had a job and you would expect to pay taxes on that job, that's when you need to think about being real. Again, this is not legal advice right here. I am not a lawyer. Anyways, when people pay you for a 1099, if you go work for a real company, so you do contract work for a company, once you hit the $600 level, at least that's how it was, they have to file what's called a 1099 form with the IRS for you. So if you make more than $600 with any particular business client, you're going to be filling out some tax information. Beyond that, again, if people are giving you cash or whatever else, look at what it is, right? If you make enough money every week to treat you and your girlfriend or your spouse, whatever, to a movie, you probably don't have to worry about too much about being real. If you start looking at a really nice Miami vacation or buying a car off of what's coming off of your income, then you need to look at being real. And with a real thing, again, you can go get an accountant, you can get a TurboTax. I used to use TurboTax back in the day, back before I was cool, and deal with all that kind of stuff. Because again, there's gonna be regulations that you might have to worry about. There's licensing that you might have to worry about. There's taxes, all that kind of stuff. Those are a lot of hoops that you have to run through before you have any idea if anybody actually cares about your product. Let's see here. Internal systems are going to be a big thing. You need to start creating your internal systems basically day one. So you'll hear me talk about things like CRM solutions, customer relationship management solutions. Salesforce is the well-known one. One of the things you need to be thinking about is creating internal systems so that you have a system for how business operates that you can scale. Right? So if your business actually starts doing pretty well and you decide, hey, I need an employee. Okay, how is the employee email gonna work? Again, we're gonna talk about marketing down here somewhere. Again, getting a domain name. So you're like, right now, like you might be thinking about, okay, I'm getting some customers or whatever, but I'm not worried about internal systems. I'm gonna still use a Comcast email account. One of the issues you run into though is what happens when you get an employee. What happens when you get a contractor? What happens when you start to grow it all? I know $6 a month for Google Apps might seem like a lot of money. But the nice part about $6 a month on Google Apps is you can scale that out to a gazillion people if you want. All right, you buy your domain name, you start using Google Apps or Outlook, whatever the hell it is that you want to use. You get an employee, you add them to the account, you pay another $6 a month. You get another employee, you add them to the account, you pay them another $6 a month. The other valuable thing there is that you then own the accounts. If all the communication is going through accounts you own, when the employees leave, like they will, you still have access to all of those accounts and all of that information so that you don't lose customers. Again, one of the issues you can have, especially when you're starting up, let's say something like a web design company, something relatively simple, is you may get people that are willing to come in and willing to work with you. They work with you for a while. They start getting business communication on their personal email, and then both them and, strangely, your client walk away on the same day. Right? If you actually have your own email system, again, as your Google Apps or whatever, you can try to prevent that type of thing. And so coming up with the customer relationship management solution, again, like once you start having customers, you add them to the CRM solution. As you add them to the CRM solution, you put in the notes, you put in the work orders, you put in all the communications, all of that kind of stuff. And then when you get an assistant, when that assistant now has to deal with one of your customers, they simply open up the CRM solution, they look at the history of what's going on there, and they have an idea of what's occurring. They're not walking in blind. The other thing to be thinking about, again, with internal systems is to be thinking about, like, how big are you going to scale? One of the big issues you run into with things like CRM and all that kind of stuff is the really affordable stuff doesn't scale too far. I think I looked at Squirrel CRM years ago. I think it was called Squirrel CRM. Anyways, it was a pretty good CRM solution that for some reason tapped out at 15 users. Done, right? It was like $6 a month or $10 a month per user, which actually seemed really nice. But then you got to 15 users. Couldn't go any further than that. One of the things you need to be thinking about, again, especially being a tech professional, you're creating a tech business, is how are these tech systems going to scale with you? How are telephone communications going to work? Right? Again, you don't think about it. Well, it's a telephone. Yeah, but how is that going to work? Are you going to be using something like Skype? Are you going to be using something like OnSip or anyways, right? Are people going to get cell phones? That type of thing. These are things that you need to be thinking about basically as soon as possible. Even when it's just you start thinking about how does this system grow beyond you. The structure. So once you decide to become real, the whole question of what are you going to be? You are doing business as an LLC or an S&C Corp. Again, have I said I'm not a lawyer? I am not a lawyer. I'm just going to explain this. So one of the interesting things is you yourself and you, if you're in the United States, generally, I think all states, you can just go out and you can just start doing business. As long as there's not any particular regulation on your business, again, like plumbing or electrical, normally like web design and stuff, you can just go out and start doing work. As long as you pay the government, they don't give a damn, right? So okay, I did $1,000 of work for you, pay to Eli, right? Eli, done. right? That's one thing a lot of people don't think about, right? They think about they have to have this business name, and you really don't. You can just be you. Under you is in something called a doing business as name. It's very important to understand from a legal standpoint, a doing business as name is still you. It's just you with an alias, right? So if I no longer want to get payments under my name, I want to get payments under Eli, the computer guy, but I don't want to go into the corporate world, I can simply get a doing business as name. Eli, right, doing business as Eli, the computer guy. Basically, I can hand that to my bank, and anytime I get a check or payment or whatever for Eli, the computer guy, that will just go into my account. So that's how you can do a DBA. Again, under this, no legal protections at all. If you do something stupid, you may or may not get sued. Then you have the LLC, Limited Liability Corporation. Basically, the idea with the LLC, what I would argue, the point of the LLC is once you start getting employees. Because here's the thing, when you have an LLC, basically the corporation becomes the entity. The corporation is a person. And again, as I've said many times in many videos, I'm not saying this is a good system, but it is the system that we have, right? And under the system that we have, corporations are people too. It's just how it is, don't give me crap. So the thing with this is if the corporation does something stupid, the corporation has bank accounts, the corporation has assets, so on and so forth. So if somebody sues Eli the Computer Guy LLC, they go after the assets of the corporation. Hopefully they don't go after my assets, right? So if you're doing your business under you or doing your business as name and you get sued, whatever assets you have, they are on the table. Right? If your LLC gets sued, the assets of the LLC are on the table generally, right? And so once you start having employees, I didn't worry about this until I had employees because I was confident about my work. I trusted me. I don't trust them. And I learned that was a good call. Anyways, so when you have an LLC, basically, if one of your employees does something stupid, so if you're doing business as, and your employee does something stupid, because that's what they're going to do, you could get directly sued for their stupidity. If you have an LLC, one of your employees does something stupid, the LLC is what can actually get sued. So that's one of the big things with the LLC. As far as I understand, there's no real tax breaks. So a lot of people think with a corporation you get tax breaks. With LLCs, I do not believe you get tax breaks. It is the legal protection. You do have to be careful though. There is something called piercing the veil. So when you sign contracts as an LLC and when you do things as an LLC, the idea is that the LLC is the person. You are part of that corporation. Companies can only sue the corporation. They can't go after you. Unless you do something really damn stupid. Unless you do something stupid, or unless you're really bad with paperwork and that kind of thing. And there's something called piercing the veil. And so what piercing the veil is that basically you have an LLC in name only. You say you have a corporation, but you don't actually treat it like a corporation. So the big problem you run into this is with bank accounts. So if your LLC drops into your personal bank account, so you're both putting money into the bank account and you are taking money out of the bank account as your personal piggy bank, well, that means those are your assets, so they can try to pierce the veil to try to go after your assets and go through it. If you do something grossly negligent, you may be a member of or may be under the corporation, but you still did something horribly stupid, they can still try to pierce the veil to go after you. And that's one of the things I say with employees. I feel more comfortable with this with employees because, again, I'm worried about what the employees are going to do. I'm pretty comfortable with me. That's what you do at LLCs. Then you get to the S and the C Corps. Basically, this is when you start having shareholders. So an S Corp, I don't know, 200 members? So an S Corp allows you to have 200 members. Basically, members are owners of the corporation. And so basically S Corps are relatively small corporations. So you might see this in things like law firms maybe, where you want partners to have ownership in the corporation, but you're not going to be selling shares or any of that kind of thing. You might have an S Corp there. C Corp, basically C Corp is what you see go off to the stratosphere and be IPO'd, right? So if you're going to create the next Facebook, most likely anybody that's going to give you advice will tell you to become a C Corp. Most likely a Delaware C Corp, but that has changed over the years. But the C Corp, the idea there is you essentially can have unlimited shareholders. Again, you can be publicly traded if you go through the whole process and the whole 9 yards. So that's kind of the idea with the structure there. Let's see here. Where are we at? Hour and a half. Not too bad. Ugh, we still got a lot. There's so much to teach you people. Anyways, business networking. Let's talk about business networking. So again, you have your dog dating app, and you're trying to figure out how to go out there and figure out if anybody gives a damn about your dog dating app. So again, I tell you folks about things like meetups and events. These are great places to go, again, to try to sell your idea. So let's say I'm having a dog dating app, right? And so one of the things I need to be thinking about is who are my synergistic partners? Who can I create partnerships with that would value both sides, right? So if I'm doing a dog dating app, what I might think about is dog groomers, right? So what if I went to dog grooming businesses? I was able to put my signs out at the dog grooming businesses, so that would get me advertising. And then if people needed grooming services, I would know about them, and I could try to help get them advertising. So if I have a web platform, right? So be like, hey, your grooming company, you put my flyers out on your table, and I will put some of your banner ads on my site, geo-targeted, so I can use a lot of different banner ads there, and try to come into that whole little synergistic thing, right? Or again, like if you're trying to figure out how to make money, like, oh my golly, people are not willing to spend $5 a month on dog dating apps, but I still think this is a great idea. I still need to make money. What if I can put advertising on there? Again, what if I could put Alpo on there? What if I could do that kind of thing? And so that's where business networking is going to be an important thing. Going out there and finding the sector, finding the industry that relates to you, trying to figure out who would be synergistic partners for you, and going out and meeting and schmoozing so people know that you exist. So there's truisms in this world, and I find most of the truisms are usually incorrect. One of the truisms is it's not who you know, or it's not what you know, it's who you know. Right? That's one of the big things people say. It's not what you know, it's who you know. Whatever. I argue it's actually who knows you. The most important conversations that will literally pivot your entire business, will be the most significant for you, are the ones that you will never know happened. When one person is talking to another person and they're like, hey, did you meet that person that's trying to launch a dog dating app? I kind of like that idea. Maybe we should put some money into it, right? There are so many conversations that happen that you do not know ever happened. And some random motherfucker is going to walk up to you one day. They'll be like, yeah, I think I want to put about $250,000 down on this project. And you're like, what? Who are you? Where did you come from? I don't understand. Well, I was talking to somebody, blah, blah, blah. Again, think about it with Louis Rossmann. He didn't do the business networking. He did the YouTube videos, right? Louis Rossmann with his pocket billionaire. He's got a little billionaire in his pocket. I want a pocket billionaire. Anyways, yeah, so he got $1 million. He got $1 million for a 501c3. And literally, how he got $1 million for a 501c3 is he was talking about right to repair, and he's doing all this right to repair stuff. And there's this billionaire down in Texas. And that billionaire was just bored because he's a billionaire. Like, oh, what do I do? He was like my old employee, only a lot wealthier. And anyways, the guy was talking to his neighbor, and I guess she had been watching Louis Rossmann. And she was like, well, I mean, you don't have anything better to do. You should probably give this guy some money. He's actually trying to do some stuff in right to repair. And I was like, oh, okay. And then Louis, and I shit you not, Louis literally got a call where he was told, I am going to provide you $1 million for a 501c3. Here is the information for the lawyer to set it up. And all that the billionaire cared about was that it was a tax deduction. The conversations that happen that you would not even believe are going to be the significant ones for you. And so that's the big thing with going out and doing business networking, is going out, schmoozing, getting your face out there, interacting with people, getting feedback for your idea. All of that kind of stuff is going to be incredibly significant. Then, once you do those meetups and events or whatever else, you start doing the informational interviews, right? So you go to a business event, and again, there's a dog groomer there, and say, hey, dog groomer, I'd like to take you out for a cup of coffee. You mind if I take you out for a cup of coffee? I want to pick your brain about my dog dating app. And surprisingly, damn near everybody always says yes to a free cup of coffee. Very wealthy people still like their free cups of coffee. It's a bizarre thing, but it is true. And that's the informational interview. And then you go out, and then you sit down with them, and you're, oh yeah, so this is the dog dating app. And again, and you explain the plan, and you tell the story. And you tell the story. Again, you notice how this stuff all is coming back? The mythology. What is the mythology for your dog dating app? I looked at my poor little Roxy. She's a beautiful, wonderful, lovely Chihuahua. And all she ever wants to do, she wants to be cuddled and she wants to be loved, but my wife and I have so many other things to do. And she realized she needed interaction, but it seemed taking her to a doggy daycare was too institutionalized. And so I really thought with this dog dating app, it was a way to really bring back the humanity of dogs meeting other dogs, and then you also get to meet the other owners, and so the dogs get to have a relationship and the people get to have a relationship, and I believe that'll bring world peace. You tell the story, that mythology, 1,000 fucking times. Oh, that sounds fun right now. You're like, oh, that doesn't sound too bad. Yeah, you repeat it for the 5,000th time, you're gonna lose your damn mind. But anyways, right? And that's what you're doing at the information lab. You're telling your story, you're getting their story, and you're figuring out how to schmooze. One of the things that I will tell you with business networking, though, do be careful. Do make sure you're getting some value proposition out of this. One of the big problems I've seen in the startup world is, again, grind is hard and sucks and is tedious and is a pain in the ass. One of the things I've noticed is there are a lot of people that just wind up in business networking hole to hell. The rabbit hole of business networking where they never leave. So I had a buddy of mine, and again, he actually had a good idea for a startup company. He had a really good idea for a startup company. And so I met him at the meetups up in Baltimore. And like the first 6 months I was going to the meetups, he was there. And then, a year, he was there. And it was like 2 years later, and so by that time, I had progressed. I was too busy to go to so many meetups because I just did not have enough physical time. And then I met him like 2 years later, and it was like meetup. It's like, oh wow, it's good to see you at the meetup. I mean, how many of these do you even come to anymore? He was like, oh, about 5 a week. And I was like, oh, so have you shipped your product yet? No. Do you have an MVP yet? Nah. We might be getting close. And you're like, so it's 2 years down the pike, and you've done a lot of business networking, and you have no MVP. Be careful about that. Again, business is easy. Business at least seems fun, but you can get trapped. You can get trapped in that world. Social media networking is one of the things to be thinking about, because this is what you're going to be told nowadays. Again, you're out there, Summit Jacket Eye, coming in only 2 hours late, right? You sit there and you're at the knees of Gary Vaynerchuk. And Gary Vaynerchuk is telling you, if you are not doing Instagram filters in 2025, you're just an idiot. I love Gary Vaynerchuk. He makes me laugh. Because he talks to like small startup founders about big business strategies. It just doesn't make a damn bit of sense. And that's what you're going to see. With a lot of people out there, they're going to tell you what Nike does. That's great. I'm not snarking on Nike. I wish I owned Nike. I don't. Right? They're going to tell you what Facebook does. They're going to tell you what Instagram does. Yeah, you're none of those companies. One of the things you have to be thinking about with social networking is, again, how much time can you take off of grind in order to do social networking? And again, with the Instagrams and the LinkedIns and the Twitters and all this other crap in the world, again, it all takes time. It all takes time. It all takes energy. You should try to do it relatively properly. And so one of the questions you have to ask yourself with social networking is, again, kind of like with business networking, are you actually moving your ball forward, or are you just wasting a tremendous amount of time? Again, figuring out the perfect filter in order to showcase my little anti-Louis Rossmann robot, right? That's fun. Putting a filter on a anti-Louis Rossmann robot, that's so much fun. Oh, figuring out why the Louis Rossmann robot is having a fucking epileptic fits half the time. That's not so much fun, right? And so that's what you got to be thinking about, again, with your social networking and the rest. Again, you think about it with your brand, you think about it with the culture, who you're trying to communicate, the rest of it. When you're doing social networking, why are you doing social networking? What do you expect the response of your social networking to be? And does it actually have any value with where you're at? Again, one of the reasons that I was successful with sponsors a number of years ago, so if you don't know me from back in the day, I used to have the Daily Blob Show on YouTube. I had lots of sponsors. And one of the interesting things that I found, so much money. Anyways, is that they basically needed to spend money. So I would have marketing people that would come to me, and they just had ad spends. Eli, I've got to spend $25,000 this month on new media. And again, they were big companies. They were big, $100 million plus companies. They had their ad spends for the year, and out of their ad spend, like 10% was this new media thing. And so they were trying to figure out what the hell to do with it. And so, again, they would throw money at people like me because they didn't even know what the hell the ROI was supposed to look like. And so that's one thing to be thinking about with social networking. Again, you look at the Nikes of the world, the Audis of the world, and the IBMs of the world, is they have huge marketing departments. They have huge budgets. And so, 5% or 10% out of an insane budget is a lot of money. So just because they're doing something doesn't necessarily mean you need to follow suit. The other thing too is, again, with social networking, it's going to take time, energy, all that kind of stuff. Is that something that you can really part with? Marketing. The first thing that you need to do tonight, after you build your MVP tonight, to prove you might be able to build it, is you need to get a domain name. SiliconDojo.com, EliTheComputerGuy.com, CrappyApp.com, all mine. All right. The domain name is going to be the most important thing for you. Again, even more than copyright and trademark. Copyright and trademark used to be the big deal. Now it's the fucking domain name. You can have whatever trademark you want, but if you can't get the domain name, you're still screwed, right? So go on to GoDaddy. I like GoDaddy. Don't use GoDaddy to buy the domain name. Use GoDaddy to find a domain name, and then go to Cloudflare. Cloudflare, great for domain names, SSLs built in, awesome stuff. Anyways, go try to figure out a domain name. You want to keep it relatively short. Don't make it long. I got a domain name for a company once, and it was just sad. What was it? Industrial Electrical Solutions. Never allow your client to buy the domain name industrialelectricalsolutions.com. It's not going to go well for anybody. Nobody can type that shit out and not fuck it up, especially for email addresses. And that's what they use for their email addresses. So anyways, you want to keep it relatively short, relatively sweet. Pretty simple, something you can knock out, something that's memorable. And then once you buy that domain name, then you can go and figure out copyright and trademark. So it's really a trademark. So trademark here in the United States, basically, again, it's a monopoly on intellectual property for how you are identified. So I am identified as blah, and you actually get that for the federal government. And the idea is that there shouldn't be a confusion. So two companies can essentially have the same brand name as long as there's not confusion. Unless you have stupid people who get very confused about why Cisco is selling eggs. When did Cisco start selling eggs? Their business went really weird. So like Cisco, right? There's Cisco and there's Cisco. Do you know the difference? So there's Cisco, CISCO, that sell routers and networking equipment and that kind of stuff. And there's Cisco, SYSCO, and they sell food products to the restaurant industry. The theory is, the trademark office, I do believe, gives the American public a little too much credit. So they believe that people would not confuse those two things. And so that's why you can have two trademarks that are the same. The idea being is that they're for two different industries. And so that's what you can look at. So even if your domain name, the name of your company is taken, it might be taken in an entirely different sector than what you're trying to do. And so it's something to think about there. Again, with a domain name, the first thing you're going to do is get email addresses. Again, I would argue a Google or Outlook. Whatever. Just pay for it. Because one of the big things is as you start communicating with people, those emails are going to go out, and then they're going to start replying. And again, business is a weird thing. Business can take a shocking amount of time to complete. Like people will flag your emails, and then they'll get back to you in a year. Like, it's weird. They'll be like, oh my God, you're amazing. And you won't hear from them for a year. And then they'll email you to figure out where to send the check. And you're like, what? So that's one of the big things with email addresses. Once you get your domain name, immediately set up your email addresses so that you can start communicating directly out through those email addresses, and you don't have the confusion of stuff coming into your personal account, and then are they sending to the personal account, are they sending to the business account, that whole disaster. One of the big things you really want to do from the get-go, even before you're real, you don't have to be real to do this, is you do want to start siloing. You want to start siloing your business from your personal world as much as possible. And then you build a website. Again, put up a crappy website, use WordPress, Wix. Have I told you about Wix? I like Wix. You might not need Wix though. Again, put up a website that says whatever the hell it is that you're doing. Again, real businesses have websites. If you don't have a domain name and you don't have a website, are you a real business? And it is shocking. It is shocking how little is required to impress people. Oh, Summit, Jadeka. What's up?
Oh, yes. Yeah. Actually, I read a blog once and it said that the company name should be, we can start a company name based on our local area and we can take its name. Like I live in Amritsar, we can have Amritsar consultancies or Amritsar web designs, etc. We can have a name that is very specific to our local area so that people can relate more to it, right? The meetups that we go to and the people that we approach can relate more to our name.
Is that a question or is that just a statement? Yep.
Statement.
Oh, okay. Fair enough. Thank you for the statements. We don't do statements here. I know we're on social media. Everybody's like, I want to say my opinion. We got a lot of people in here. If everybody says their opinion, it's gonna be a shit show. It's gonna be a shit show. Questions from the peanut gallery. I have enough to keep my mind around. Anyways, yes, and so yeah, so create your website. Again, it is it's surprising how little is required to seem impressive. Again, I remember back in the day, one of my best clients that I got. When I got them, I've been handing out flyers or whatever, and so they called me back. It was a business client. It was actually pretty good money at the end of the day. And the secretary was talking to me, and she was like, yes, I'm looking at all your stuff and all that. Just to make us feel more comfortable, how many clients do you have? And now, to be clear, I was not trying to obfuscate. I was just kind of stupid. Right? I'm like, well, because I basically just started my little business, put up the full pull tab signs. And so I had fixed like 20 people's computers. I fixed 20 people's computers. And so she was like, yeah. And I was like, oh, yeah, well, I guess I've got about 20 clients. And she's like, oh, that sounds great. That sounds great. Yeah, you should definitely come in next week. We have some work for you. And then I got off the phone and realized, oh, fuck. That wasn't really the question she was asking, was she? But anyways, I got the client. So again, it's one of those surprising things about how you will be accepted just by little things. Again, I also tell that, again, since I have a disadvantaged group, again, I get all kinds of people showing up. Some of you may have been ex-criminals. And I'm just going to put something on the table. Again, this weird thing with businesses. You know how it's like an ex-criminal, you're told you're screwed because nobody is ever going to hire you? Whenever McDonald's does a background check, your criminal past is going to come back to haunt you. You know how you've been told that, right, all your life. What am I going to do? Here's a funny thing. As a business owner with God knows how many clients, nobody ever does a background check on business owners. Again, this is where I talk about that whole thing. Like I talk about in some of these videos with cybersecurity where I get really frustrated, where they say, we're at war, and then nobody acts like it. Again, I talk about counterintelligence operations, right? If you have a startup company, if you have a startup company right now, what is your counterintelligence policy? And people are like, oh, that's stupid. Oh, look at Eli, right? This is one of the points that I want to make. Out of all the time of doing business in Baltimore City, dealing with large companies and small companies and people and all kinds of different folks, the only time I ever got a background check is when I actually had to do work on a military ship. There's this really cool work I did on a military ship. Actually, I had to get a background check for that. Nowhere else did it even come up because I'm the owner. Owners don't get background checks. Let's put that on the table. Let you all figure that one out. Let's see, accounting. Just so you know, whenever you start your business, do start dealing with QuickBooks. again, even if it's not a real business yet, QuickBooks now, I don't know, you might want to do FreshBooks. There's a lot of different things out there. QuickBooks, there used to be a QuickBooks Basic that was nice. It cost you $100, lasted you like 5 years, and it was a great service. And that, again, you plug in, when people give you money, you plug in when you spend money, the whole nine yards. The nice thing about QuickBooks nowadays is they have their online version, and everything syncs with everything else. So it synchronizes with PayPal, synchronizes with your bank account, synchronizes all these different things. And so it's really easy just to keep track of payments in and out and that type of thing. So that might be useful for you. So again, something to be thinking about there. Again, create a separate business banking account, even if you're not real. Even if you're not real. Create a separate business banking account. I still have like an orphan checking account that's like 20 years old at this point. Because when I started, again, my business, I created this account basically just to keep track of the business's input and output. And it's still one of those random orphan things that's still sitting there. But basically the idea is you create that separate business banking account so that you can separate the income that's coming in from your business and the expenses, and you know what's going on. One of the biggest things to understand as a business owner is you have to have visibility on how your business is actually doing. As I always say, you can lie to everybody else. I would not recommend it, but you can. You can lie to your spouse. You can lie to your vendors. You can lie to your mommy and your daddy and everybody else. The one person you never, ever, ever lie to is you. The moment you start lying to yourself, it's all over. Right? And the nice thing about having a separate business account is it's pretty damn simple. Again, even if you're obtuse as a block of wood, right? Okay, the bank account had $200 last month. It has $100 now. I'm losing money. Bank account had $200 last month. It has $1,000 now. I'm making money. Right? Again, you do want to be a little bit more refined than that, but even on the block of wood level, you can get a metric with how your business is doing. And so that's going to be an important thing, because again, like when you start buying business cards, right? You start buying business cards, and you start getting domain names, you start going to Wix, and you start buying a computer, right? If some money is coming out of the business account and some money is coming out of the personal account, it's very easy to confuse what's going on, right? You look at the revenue, right? Net, your net. So gross revenue is the total amount of money coming in. Net is when you minus, right, all your liabilities, all of your costs, and what's left over, right? So if you have $2,000 come in, but all of your expenses are getting paid from your personal account, you go, wow, I made $2,000. You don't see that it cost you $2,500 to make that $2,000, right? That's one of the reasons you keep it from your own account. You will see something called an FEIN, Federal Employer Identity Number. If you're going to become real, get an FEIN. It's no big deal. You go to irs.com or .gov or whatever, fill out a form, and they'll give you the Federal Employment ID number. When you go to get a real business bank account, life is a lot easier if you have that FEIN, and basically that FEIN is how the IRS is going to track your corporation from a tax standpoint. And it's very useful. Whenever you have to deal with real vendors, so a lot of vendors nowadays, you're just going to be using Amazon or whatever else, they don't care about FEINs, but if you ever have to use a real vendor that is going to interact with this business, they're going to expect an FEIN. So that's just one of those things that's there. Oh, let's see here. CAC, scale. This is where your business lives or dies. This is the only thing that matters right here. Everything else has been cotton candy and fairy dust. This is where your company lives and dies. CAC. CAC is client acquisition cost. If you've got a good CAC, you will become a billionaire. If you've got a crap CAC, you're going to go bankrupt. Just how it works. And so basically all client acquisition cost is how much does it cost you to acquire a client? And then what is the expected, what's called the expected lifetime value of the client? Or depending on how long your runway is, what is the expected X amount of value for the client, right? So we talk about this, again, when I had my computer repair business. Again, we're talking about 15 years ago at this point. So we had a lot of different advertising that we did, right? So we actually did television ads, we did radio ads, we had a billboard, we did Google ads, we had a whole bunch of different things. The CAC, the client acquisition cost for Google AdWords, going back to 2009, was $85 a new customer. right? So basically, I spend $85 on Google AdWords, I get new customer, and that made a lot of sense. The least our customers spent back in the day was $150 per work order. Even home clients at the time would spend a lot of money. Again, it was the boom years. It was boom years. People were throwing that money around for computers. So a client acquisition cost of $85 was great. On the other hand, radio ads, their client acquisition cost was $3,000. $3,000 per customer. Yeah, that was not sustainable by any measure. Basically, what we did is we used QuickBooks. So whatever you're using, an easy way to track client acquisition costs by different advertising metrics is by using the sales rep. So there's a sales rep. There might be something now, but back then it was just sales rep. And you can plug in the sales rep. So basically, a customer would come in, they drop on the computer. If they were new, they go, oh, how did you find out about us? I Googled you. I heard you on the radio. I saw your billboard. And that was the thing. So like Google AdWords was $85. No questions asked. Radio ad was $3,000, which was stupid. Billboard was like $400 a piece. So I don't know. I guess depending on how flush we were, maybe that would have made sense, or maybe not. And this is what you're going to have to be thinking about. Again, what is the expected value, right? The profit from the customer. So again, with us, it was a very service-intensive industry. So when you do computer repairs, very service-intensive industry. So basically, if you look at $150 wipe and reload, right? So basically, you bring in your system, it's all screwed up, or it's $200. Anyways, it was antivirus. Our antivirus, clean up your computer, was $150. So what that meant is we spent $5 on a copy of McAfee. Again, 2009, McAfee was still good. Don't give me crap. Anyway, so we spent $5 on a copy of McAfee, and it was $145 of net, basically, for that, right, without the employee. Right, so if I spend $85, you bring a $150 repair, it cost me $5, so I put that to the client or whatever, so that's $90. So I'm walking out, the first transaction you have with my company, I'm walking away with $50 free clear. That's a pretty damn nice CAC, right? On the other hand, again, we got $3,000 CAC, whatever else, and that's when things start to get really ugly. And one of the big things that you need to be thinking about, though, everything in the tech world is scale. At scale, 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 at scale. How are you going to hire people? At scale. How is your infrastructure going to work? At scale. How are you going to do client acquisition? At scale. Because what will screw you up, and what screws up a lot of people, is you look at CAC, and you're like, dog, Eli, my CAC's so good. Man, I don't even gotta pay for my CAC. Right? Because that's what a lot of people are gonna say. It's like, oh yeah, I remember those days. Oh, that's adorable. I remember those days too. Right? Because you go out and you start talking with people or whatever else, and they love your idea, right? Dog dating app. That's amazing. Right? They get you. They get you. You're in Portland. You're in Portland, and they're doing dog dating. This is gonna save the world. And so you go out there, and like every day you're picking up a user. Every day you're picking up a user or two, right? And they pay you $5. They pay $5 a month for the subscription. So every day you're increasing your revenue by $5 or $10. You're like, man, CAC's easy. Okay, great. So now you're going out there and talking with people. You're getting $5 to $10 per day for free. Okay. How much will it cost you to get $20 per day for free? Because again, think about this. A $15 an hour employee is going to cost you $150 a day. Real world. $15 an hour, which they want to be minimum wage, is going to cost you $150 a day once you get done with taxes and all the rest of that. So, $10 a day in additional revenue isn't going to help you. How do you increase by $20 a day? So, $10 a day increase in revenue is free. How much is it going to cost you to get to $20 a day? Yeah, oh yeah, that's smart. That's okay. Oh, I see your point with Google AdWords. And so you go out and you start spending money on Google AdWords. You're like, okay, well, Eli, it's not too bad, right? So in order to get to $20 a day, so basically I get 2 additional users on my system per day. What I'm noticing is that it costs, $10 for client acquisition when I'm getting 2 new users a day. So they come on, they subscribe, so, return on investment, return on the expense is going to be about 2 months, which is fine, right? I can float that for a little while. Oh, okay. So tell me how much it would cost to do 10 new users a day. Oh, okay. Yeah, sure. Okay. Yeah, okay. Yeah, we can grow. We're a startup. We'll grow. Then you come back, you're like, ooh, well, that's a little expensive. You're like, yeah, well, so we can do 10 new users a day, right? Ooh, that's like $50 a user. Right? Because again, you got to think about competition. Things like advertising. There's competition. There's only so many people looking for things. Right? The more you're trying to drive eyeballs to your thing, the more it's going to cost to drive eyeballs to the thing. So now all of a sudden you're looking at $50 per client acquisition at a rate of 10 per day. And you're like, well, I mean, it pays off. If, and again, it's a startup. If we can keep them for 10 months, then we hit break even on the client acquisition cost, and then everything is gravy past then. But oh my God, that's gonna be hard. Now look, you're gaining those users, so maybe you gotta improve your web app. Maybe your app isn't good. Maybe your smartphone thing isn't good. So you gotta hire some more people. Got to get a contractor to clean all that up, and then you do that. You're like, crap, not making enough money. Oh fuck, I gotta get like 20 new users a day. And then what you find out is you get up to 20 new users a day, and client acquisition cost for 20 new users a day is $200 per user. Which means if they get on your platform, it will take 18 months before you get your return on investment. Which probably isn't going to happen. And this is where client acquisition at scale is going to kill you. And that's why you see, again, the difference between a business and a startup. This is the world of difference. And again, this is where I'm trying to explain to you why things are so freaking screwed up in the tech industry right now, right? Because when you have startups aren't getting investment money being just dumped onto them by the millions of dollars, being told their only responsibility is to grow. Whether CAC is $5 or $500, the investors don't give a damn as long as the user base goes up. What happens when you have the startups willing to spend $500 per CAC on people that are worth 20? And you're competing with that horse crap. It gets bad. And that's where you got to be thinking about, again, as a business. If you're a business and you've got revenue and you've got profit, that's one of the things you got to figure out is, okay, what's this client acquisition cost going to look like at scale? And again, that's when you start thinking about how big can this company actually get. Again, you might be able to get 1 employee or 2 employees with client acquisition cost, but getting to 3, getting to 4, getting to 10, there's a lot of questions there. When you start dealing with employees and contractors, this becomes a big thing in the technology world. Everybody wants contractors because contractors don't have to pay taxes. That's not true. Basically, employees dump all the taxes onto the contractors. The contractors generally don't quite understand this, and I think it's the contractors' problem. They got the money. So basically, when you're getting help, you can have employees and contractors. So when you have employees, these are your employees. You are legally liable for your employees. Yay! One of the things that means is there's regulations, and there's taxes, and there's insurance, and all kinds of stuff that have to be paid around having an actual employee. All right, so there's something called workman's compensation. If your employee gets hurt on the job, generally, I think all states, you have to pay for this particular insurance, and that is going to cost you additional money. Again, unemployment insurance, Social Security, FICA. Anyway, some of that, the employees see how much of the government takes out of their side of the check. They don't see the side of the check that the government takes out from the employer side. Again, it was sad. I was paying an employee back in the day, and I forget what it was. So I was paying him, and he was complaining because he was like taking home like $600. It was like he was taking home $600, which whatever, fine. The sad part about it was it cost me $900 for him to take home $600. Because once you started tallying up the insurance and this and that and the other thing, literally he was complaining because he took home $600 and I was complaining because he cost me $900. And that's how both sides can be really pissed off at the exact same time. Anyways, so that's one of the things to be thinking about with employees. ADP or its ilk, I would highly recommend if you decide to have employees. Again, if you don't fill out your tax paperwork exactly on time, the IRS fines the hell out of you. You aren't a billionaire. Billionaires can get away with it. You can't. Literally, I filed my paperwork like 2 weeks late when I first had employees, and it was a $600 fine. I was like, what? And I even paid it. I paid it. It wasn't like I didn't pay it. I paid it. I just paid it late. It was like a $600 fine. The nice part with ADP is they can just do this whole system for you, make sure your employees get paid, basically be able to figure out things like direct deposit, just dumping things into people's account. One of the nice things with ADP is the last time I had employees, they'll actually offer you things like workman's comp. So workman's comp is required, but it's literally like an insurance, like car insurance, you gotta go out and find and buy. So ADP, at least back in the day, they wrapped up workman's comp into it, so I could simply pay workman's comp with the ADP. So ADP was just absolutely great. I would highly recommend it. When you think about employee cost, so you're looking at an employee and you're thinking about how much an employee is actually going to cost you, around about horseshoes and hand grenades is going to be 150% of whatever they're earning. So again, if they earn theoretically $600 a month, it is generally per employee going to cost, or $600 a week, it's generally per employee going to cost $900 a week. Again, when you look at the taxes, when you look at the insurance, when you look at a lot of things that go along with these employees, if you have a $15 an hour employee, a $15 an hour employee does not cost $15 an hour. Again, it's one of my arguments with everybody's pushing the federal minimum wage at $15 an hour. You'll notice they're not talking about tax breaks. Because what's curious about this, right? If you increase somebody from a $10 an hour minimum wage to a $15 an hour minimum wage, not only does their wage go up, but the business's side of taxes go up. And so they're talking about requiring a $15 an hour minimum wage, but nobody in government is even discussing that whole increased cost in taxes if the minimum wage goes up to $15. So that is something to consider. So a lot of people say, look, I don't want to deal with ADP. I don't want to deal with workers' comp. I don't want to deal with this 150% salary. I want to pay for what I want to pay for. And that's where they hire contractors. You'd have to be careful with contractors, though, because the IRS can come after you. And if you don't pay the tax man their due, they'll be really, really nasty, too. And so the whole idea with contractors is that they should be separate entities from your business, right? So again, a contractor is, we need server racks installed, and then we're going to rack the server, right? So we are a architect. We are a software as a service company. We need a raised floor to be installed, and we need the server racks to be installed. So we call a contractor. They say, we will install a raised floor for $5,000, and we will install your racks for $20,000. You'll hand us a check and we'll walk out the door. You'll never see us again. The big difference between contractors and employees is the idea is that you're paying contractor for the end work. For employees, you're paying for performance. I can tell an employee what to do. I can tell an employee what to do. I can tell an employee how to do it, and the rest of it. A contractor, I can tell what the expectations are for payment, and more or less, that's about it. That's supposed to be the differentiator between employees and contractors. And so it is something to consider when you hire people. A lot of people want to go with contractors. Again, I am not a lawyer. Don't follow this. If you have a contractor for a little while, again, you're just starting up your stupid little thing, your stupid little idea. It's like, you need help, but fuck me, you don't want to deal with ADP and all that kind of crap, right? You're like, So one of the things you can do, if you bring on a contractor for like a month or 2 or 3 to see how it goes, you shouldn't have a big issue, right? Because again, the IRS is looking for flags. And one of the big flags for the IRS is essentially, did the contractor have other work with other companies, or are you their primary employer? Right? So you bring them on for a month, a week, whatever, figure out what's going on, you should be fine. The issue that you get into with contractors is when you have been their primary or only customer basically for a year, going on to 2 years, that's when the IRS starts to get snarky. So do be careful with the employees and contractors. It can be a bit of an issue. Let's see here. Taxes. We start looking at taxes. Oops, I should talk about insurance. Let me plug insurance here, because we need more things to talk about, don't we? Taxes. So when you're doing taxes, you got to figure out about your particular area. There's something called sales and use tax. So this is going to be a big thing, and again, especially with your particular state. So it used to be, the idea was in most states, that there was a sales tax on product, right? If you have a product, there's a sales tax, 5, 7, 12%, whatever. And then services, there wasn't a tax. In the modern world, again, government wants more money. Always wants more money. So they just increase the spectrum of things that they tax. And so that's where you get sales and use taxes. And so certain services now require taxes to be charged. Again, when you become real, that's your business. But when you become real, you do need to start charging those taxes. In certain areas, they may tax for different things. So I was in Maryland when they tried to pass through the use tax or whatever for services. Again, we're talking about 16, 17 years ago, and literally in the middle of the night, they removed computer services. So it was salons and tanning beds, all of these services, they decided that they were going to start charging sales tax on. And then the tech industry realized what the fuck was happening, and I guess some of our industry people went there to scream at the politicians, and they got that tax removed. So one of the things you are going to have to think about is it's not even necessarily regulations, it's the taxes that you're going to be responsible for. When I dealt with this in Maryland, basically what happened is you contacted the comptroller. There's a form you filled out by the comptroller. You fill it out, you say what you're doing, give the FEIN or whatever else. They would then send you back your tax ID, their tax ID number. They would give you a resale certificate. There's a tax certificate they give you so that you can buy product without paying sales tax on it. And then basically with them, it was every quarter. I do believe it was every quarter. Initially, I had to submit my sales tax money to. So basically, they just give you a little booklet. Back in the day, it was a booklet. You just fill it out, you send it off for sales tax, and then once we got to enough, we're doing like real money. I think it was like every month. And so that's something you're gonna have to look at in your particular state, and just be careful about that. Insurance. We're gonna dump that in there real quick. Oh, 4:15. We're getting close. Insurance is a big one. So insurance is a big one. So basically, it's a big thing. Like, should you get insurance? There's a lot of different insurances out there, so do make sure you get the right insurance. Again, in an area that got hit with a biblical flood, make sure you have the right insurance. Oh, your insurance is for lightning strikes, not floods. Anyways, so with insurances, there's something called general liability insurance. If you are going to be real, you should have general liability insurance. And if you're going to be interacting with any customer of any size, again, they won't want a background check. They will want your insurance binder number, though. And basically what the general liability insurance is if you do something stupid. If I'm walking with a server and I trip and the 20,000 server goes boom, $20,000 server goes boom. They pay for it. So my shop was burglarized. So we had somebody break into the store. They went down. They stole 4 laptops that were being repaired. And so I called general liability insurance. They said, fine. You know, how much is a laptop? It was kind of weird, honestly. They're like, how much does a laptop cost? And I'm like, I don't know, $600. They're like, yeah, fine. They literally told me, go out, buy 4 laptops, get a signature from each of your customers that they received the laptop, and we'll just hand you a check back. And they did. It was a very weird experience with insurance. And so that's what like general liability insurance is. Again, if you're going and let's say you're putting up surveillance cameras or something like that, and you put a ladder through a window, that kind of thing is going to be covered. You're going to have a deductible for the insurance. They will have a max amount. Do make sure you take a look at that. There was going to be like a max amount per incident, a max amount per person, blase, blase, blase. But that's basically what we're talking about with general liability insurance. The other things that you should be looking at, though, is there are different types of specialized insurance. So we had, when I had the store, errors and omissions insurance. So this can be a big one in the technology world. So what errors and omissions insurance is what happens when you make an oopsie, right? You didn't break at something with a hammer. You just misconfigured where the backups were supposed to go, right? Think about that, right? Right? They got a server. They pay you to create an offsite backup solution. You futz with the periods. You didn't put the period in the right place for the IP address or something. All right. Basically, if their premises burned down, their server went away, they then go to get their offline backup. It doesn't exist. And so now there's this whole brouhaha about what to do next. That's what errors and omissions insurance does for you, right? You made an error in the work that you were doing. This cost your customer money. Ergo, they're going to come in and again, it is insurance companies. We'll see how it works. Now, the other thing is too is like omissions insurance. So if you knew or should have known something, but you omitted it for some reason, you didn't say it. Now, this isn't from you were being nefarious. Again, we all get tired. We all don't say things that we're supposed to say. Anyways, let's say you're doing work for a customer, we're doing work for a client, and you were supposed to inform them of something, and it didn't. you omitted it, right? That's one of the things the insurance will cover too. So that's some errors and omissions insurance. Nowadays, there's lots of different insurances out there. You got to kind of figure out what actually makes sense for you. Again, like there's cybersecurity incidents insurance and all that kind of stuff. I don't know. Take it all with a bit of a grain of salt. General liability insurance. Do get that though. Product market fit and pivoting. So this is going to be a big one for you to be figuring out with your business. Again, pivoting. This is what you're going to do. You're going to grind and you're going to pivot. And you're going to grind and you're going to pivot. And you're going to grind and you're going to pivot. And then you're really going to kind of want a beer because you're kind of dizzy. Don't do that live. Anyways, it's a product market fit. So one of the big issues that you're going to have is when you go out with your business, your dog dating app, you're going to have to figure out, Charles, I see you. I'll get you to you in a second. You're going to figure out, again, does your product fit the particular market? And again, that's where you got to go out and network. That's where you got to go schmooze. That's where you got to go do the informational interviews. And basically what you're doing is you're trying to build a product and then trying to see if it fits your particular market. Again, that's kind of thing with Silicon Dojo, my little fever dream, right? So I had an idea. What if we did in-person and tech education in Asheville, North Carolina that empowered people here to make their lives better? And I bet I had a classroom. We taught classes for like a year. I did all of that. And then what I figured out is Asheville don't care. I'm not even being snarky. Asheville really just doesn't give a fuck. They care about their beer and they care about their mountains. They do not care about Silicon Dojo, right? Again, I go to Research Triangle, they love it, right? I had people flying in. I had people driving 9 hours for 1 to 3 hour class to Asheville. But Asheville people didn't care about it. Right? And that's one of the things. Like some reason, sometimes it doesn't work out, right? You may be in Charlotte creating your dog dating app, and people in Charlotte are like, we care about cats. What about the cats? And that's one of the things that you have to think about with your business. That's what we talk about with pivoting. So if you're in Charlotte trying to create your dog dating app, and you find out that Portland is really the place to do a dog dating app, then what's your pivot as a business? Do you move to Portland? Maybe pick everything up and you go to Portland. Maybe that's what you want to do. Or you're in Charlotte and you figure out everybody loves cats. Cats are the thing in Charlotte. Could you make a cat dating app? Right? And that's the whole idea with pivoting. So basically you're going out there, and again, that's why meeting with people and informational interviews and all this kind of stuff is so important. And this is why I give, there was one commenter out in the world who's giving me crap about introverts. Like, Eli, you're just not thinking about the introverts enough. It's like, again, I'm just going to tell you reality. This is how the world is. If you want to run a marathon, you're going to need legs. Like, I feel like that with sometimes with people. It's like I'm sitting here trying to explain to you like how to learn how to train for a marathon, and people are like, Eli, that is so insensitive. You're not thinking about the legless. And I'm like, dude, I don't know what to do about the legless, to be honest with you. That's not the thing. And that's one thing too. Like I say, like I get this with a lot of people, like with the introvert thing, like Aspie thing or introvert thing. Like, Eli, you don't understand how hard it is to deal with people. And I don't care. The world doesn't care. Let me be crystal clear for everybody watching. Nobody cares. Nobody cares, right? The point of understanding your identity, like when I talk about being an Aspie, the point of that is I understand how I view the world, how I perceive the world, and how I interact with the world is different than how neurotypical people do. Therefore, wait for it, I modify my behavior in the real world to, wait for it, conform to the expectations of polite society. Nobody gives two craps that I'm an Aspie in the real world. The value of knowing that I'm an Aspie is it allows me to better understand where there's friction points where it seems like there shouldn't be friction points. Right? And again, if you're an Aspie, if you're an introvert and all that, and you're like, Eli, you're not taking us into account. No, the world doesn't take you into account. Again, if you're going to be doing this, you need to be talking to people damn near constantly. If it gives you a headache, buy a bottle of Tylenol. I don't know what to tell you. Don't do heroin, not the hard drugs. Keep it down to Tylenol, right? But that's the thing is you got to go out there with your product, with your product. You got to go out in the market. You got to have that price point. You got to be like, does this sound good? Okay, you go next expert. How does this sound good? Go to next expert. Okay, how's this one? Like, think about that. Like, when we started repairing Macs, I had zero interest in repairing Macs. So, again, we're talking about like 15 years ago. And none. Did not give a damn. Again, I got my MCSE. We do PCs. Anyways, I'm going out there. I'm schmoozing. I'm talking with people. And again, it's that whole thing. Hey, we do PC repair. Do you fix Macs? No. Hey, we do PC repair. Do you fix Macs? No. Hey, we do PC repair. Do you fix Macs? Huh. I don't know, give me your information. I'll get back to you on that. Huh. We do PC repair. Do you fix Macs? Why, yes, sir. Yes, we do. And we made a lot of money fixing Macs. And it had nothing to do with anything that I ever wanted to touch. Macs are a complete and utter pain in the ass to repair. God bless, I had a guy, Marcus. He was great with repairing Macs. I just left him in his little room to deal with those damn things, and he made me money. It was a wonderful deal. Zero interest in doing Macs. Why do we do Macs? Again, product market fit. People kept asking for it. Fuck, they want to give us a lot of money. We will take it. All right, and then you pivot. You pivot to figure out what you want to do. Charles H., what's up? Or is there anything up?
There we go. All right, yeah. So you're talking about insurance. When I worked at a computer repair place, it was an even bigger concern that we lost data, which doesn't really have a really solid financial dot to it. And then also the fear of then being sued for losing data. Any recommendations there regarding insurance and how to keep yourself protected for those not as material losses?
For that kind of thing, I think it goes back to contracts. So again, I actually don't have lawyers in here. Next time we do this, we'll have lawyers. So like that's one of the issues is you are liable for essentially anything the customer can say they had an expectation you should be liable for. So that's why you have contracts. And so basically one of the things is when they drop off the computer, they should sign a piece of paper that literally states you are not responsible for any lost data. And basically the way that you placate it, like so if you're charging for data recovery or whatever and it fails and you're not responsible for lost data, basically you say, oh, the data went by, so we're not going to charge you for that. So you don't piss them off. You don't charge them $100 for something they're not getting. Anyway, so you take that off the bill, and then you just give them back the computer and say, look, when you came in, you signed off that we're not responsible for the data. We tried our best, blase, data go bye-bye. There's the computer back. Because, there's a lot of things like data. Oh, frick me, data. Like with platter drives. Like platter drives, you just sneeze at them and they'll die. Something bad will happen to them. That's just a contract thing. Yep. Doc Fully, Jock, what's up?
I had a question about that same statement. So would you consider having a BAA a value at this point if you just have a startup when you deal with contracts, or will you be going over that later?
I'm sorry, what's that again?
A BAA, a business agreement. So when you deal with contracts or you're dealing with customers, also as another form of insurance in a sense. Kind of like, do you know the question I'm asking?
No, I didn't deal with a business agreement. So what is it? What is it supposed to be?
The BAA is an agreement. So like an example you gave, that lost of data.
Yeah.
So because I'm dealing with healthcare, so we deal with sensitive information.
Yeah.
That the information that I have, say for instance, I have PHI information about you, and I'm doing something with your healthcare system, but I contract with another company that deals with computers. A BAA is like kind of like insurance is say, so if that data gets corrupted or gets stolen or whatever, you're also like, if it's under your care, you're responsible as opposed to me being responsible. A business agreement.
So the contractor. Yeah, you get into this legal stuff, and it can just be a nightmare. So we're not going to go into that. Like,
okay.
Yeah.
So I was curious if we were going to cover that because I had some questions about that. Okay, thank you.
Yeah. No. Because we had contracts, and that's like whose insurance covers what. So we did have work. So we would hire subcontractors, but then the subcontractors would have to be under our insurance. And then we'd have to get an agreement from our insurance company to actually cover the work that they were doing. So yeah, when you get, have I said that I'm not a lawyer? When you get into hardcore liability issues, again, dealing with hospitals, we're not talking about that crap today. That gets into its own world. Again, we're kind of talking about like starting this whole thing, getting it up and running. We're not getting into hospitals. I wouldn't want to get into hospitals anyway. Ian, what's up?
So this is a question about just accountants. We wanted to basically like is there like, does any CPA, is that okay, or like, are they able to handle multi-member LLC stuff where sometimes there's a form that's also about your personal finances too? I think it's like I remember vaguely that there's a K2, but also like the person that we had hired is really, really hard to get a hold of after the initial meeting.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's like hiring any vendor. You've kind of got to talk to them and figure out what they do. So a multi-member LLC and a K2, again, I'm not an accountant, but I don't think that should be any big deal. I've had like 3 accountants in 20 years, so yeah. You should just be able to talk to them and discuss what issues are going on and basically tell them what you're doing. And it's basically almost like a computer repair shop. They should be able to tell you what they're able to offer. And if they can't offer it, you just literally find a different person.
Okay, so I can just shop around, like I could contact like H&R Block or whatever for tax advice.
Highly doubt H&R Block. H&R Block, they're the McDonald's of taxes. Like they whatever 1040 EZ, literally if you have anything other than 1040 EZ, they don't touch it. Like they just don't do very much of anything. No, just do like a Google search for your area and look for accountants. And again, if you're talking about just a multi-member LLC, again, I could be wrong, but I don't believe that's that big a deal. So you should be able to find somebody that's pretty affordable. The other thing too is you might find like you can find like larger tax companies, but then they won't give you the partner. So partners cost a lot of money. Partners are like $400 an hour, but they'll have like CPAs under them. So like the CPAs can do things because they're around higher level people, and they'll cost a lot less money. So again, depending on how far you want to go. If you just have a little multi-member LLC and you don't plan to do much, again, just go to Google. You should be able to find somebody. If you do want to try to scale this thing out, one of the things you can look at is some of these larger tax firms, and especially while you're new, a lot of times they'll be able to keep your price down by essentially they just give you to essentially their secretaries that can do the work fine, and then as you start with the ideas, as you start to grow, they'll hopefully be able to grow with you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. That's helpful to have some discernment there.
Yeah. And that's going to be everything. Like when we talk about scaling, that is scaling across the board, scaling from everything from your email system to your CRM solution, also to your law firm and your accountant. Again, once you get real, is like if you plan to explode, if you plan to go from 0 to 1,000, in a year, having an accounting firm that can just do a tremendous amount of work for you, can just take a lot of load off of you, can be very nice. But again, that's where, but it costs, right? The ability to scale is going to cost you more money up front, but then you'll have the value of scaling later. So that's where you kind of have to figure it out. Let's see here. Akram, what's up?
Hey, I just wanted to ask you about foreign contractors. So let's say if you know how to get a hold of contractors for a good price and they can actually do the work, how easy is it to actually get them working with you and do all the financial and legal stuff for them, or make them actual employees? Is it a good thing to do, or is it difficult?
Well, for foreign folks, so foreign from the U.S., I say foreign, not American, hiring into, gotta, whatever.
Yeah.
So basically, things have gotten a lot better. But basically what's going to need to happen is the hiring company, again, we talk about that accountant and scaling. The hiring company is going to need an accountant that has the capability of being able to deal with either foreign employees or foreign contractors. I ran into this with, I was doing a particular project. I hired a contractor out of Ireland, and my accountant had a fucking shit fit and was definitely not amused. And the reason is because a lot of times if I hire a contractor from a company where there's no tax, or from a country that has no tax treaties. I don't know which particular countries don't have tax treaties, but let's say a country that doesn't have a tax treaty, right? I just send off the check, not my fucking problem. The issue apparently is there's a U.S.-Irish tax treaty, which is not a pretty thing. And, oh, fuck, it was a disaster. I ended up firing the guy. Like, the tax treaty was more of a pain in the ass than it was worth, honestly. And so that's going to be one of the things is basically do they have the accounting capability for being able to deal with that? That is one of the reasons why many times when you hear like especially like startups or whatever here hire in Brazil or Ukraine or whatever else, they'll hire with specific companies. So if I hire the service of, Akram Web Dev, right, Unlimited, I am hiring the service of a company. I'm not hiring the service of a person. So from a tax and regulatory compliance, it is easier to deal with full-fledged companies than with individual people. And so, yeah, you get into that whole mess. But then you also, like with Americans, remember a lot of this under tax law. We're liable for it. Again, land of the free. We're liable for a lot of stuff here. So if I don't submit the right paperwork, many times I'm liable. You ain't, which is one of the reasons that it causes a lot of problems. And so if you have naive startup founders, or they just don't care, again, we got a lot of ornery people in the United States, they may be willing to hire you and they just don't fill out the right paperwork and they don't care about it. But that's their own responsibility. So basically it just comes down to, does their accounting firm have the capability of dealing with you for being able to pay? And generally, they're probably not going to hire you as an employee. Again, employee rights are insane around the world. One of the things in the United States, like we have at-will employment. So I can walk into my business. I can have 20 employees. And literally, if you parted your hair on a different side today, I can fire you. Right? I can't fire you for your skin color or your religion or your politics or your gender. But if you change how you part your hair, that I can fucking fire you for. Again, it's called at-will employment. You're gone. The issue that you run into, especially with American companies dealing with other countries, is, employment law is different in other places, and that can be a bit of a disaster. So, like, when Elon Musk bought Twitter and then fired all the African employees. So Jack Dorsey had been really into supporting Africa, had been setting up like these Twitter businesses or whatever in Africa. Elon Musk comes in and just guts them. Day one, just guts them. There were a lot of lawsuits over that because even though it would be legal to do that here to American employees, it wasn't legal to do that in those particular African countries. And so that's a bit of a hubbub there. So, yeah. I don't know if that makes any sense, but...
Yeah. Thanks, man.
Yep. Oh, no, not you. Akram, don't unmute yourself. Simmons unmute. Whoops, fuck. Did Simmons unmute? Simmons, are you unmuted? What's up?
Yes, I am unmuted now. First off, I did not want to get on the microphone today, and I got a good lesson in not getting to be introverted because I wouldn't get my question answered.
There you go.
Anyway, I did want to ask about your views. Maybe you could dig a little bit further into industry founder. I know you said business founder, technical founder, and industry founder. Specifically, what it is that you see. You've got the product from the technical founder. You've got the $500,000 from the business founder. Why is it that you find the industry founder valuable at that point from your perspective?
Oh, okay. Because the industry founder knows the industry they're going into. Again, we talk about things like tax laws. We talk about things like regulations. We talk about who the players are. We're talking about like what the actual pain points are. So I think about this like with the construction company. So it was construction industry. So we had a lot of construction clients back when I had my company. unfortunately, they couldn't buy as much product as I wanted to sell them because their employees were complete utter pains in the asses. Like there's all this amazing, again, even 15 years ago, there's all this amazing communication technology that would have just revolutionized work sites and the rest of it. And the thing that I found out dealing with the CEOs of these construction companies is they're like, yeah, Eli, you don't understand. My employees won't use any of that kind of crap. Literally, I had a construction company working at my house for like months, and like the foreman or whatever, the contractor for it, the main guy, literally in the 2 months he was there, literally went through 3 smartphones. Like they kept handing him the smartphones. He literally put a buzzsaw through one of his smartphones. And like I wouldn't even think about that kind of crap. Like it wouldn't even come to mind that it would be a problem. So it's like, if it's like, we're going to create this awesome construction technology company, what you need is that industry expert to say, well, maybe we need to look at this from a bit of a different standpoint. And it's also, again, it's getting people in the door. So again, talking with Jock, he was talking about dealing with hospital clients, right? So if you're going to be dealing with hospital clients, right, you need to get buy-in. You need to get them to actually be willing to use your product. And so a biz dev guy can be useful because they'll call and they'll try to get in the doors. But if you have an industry person, so let's say you have somebody who is a doctor for 20 years, retired, knows the local hospital ecosystem up and down, did surgery in all the different hospitals, all that kind of stuff. So basically, when you're trying to get that entree into that hospital, you can go to your industry co-founder and say, hey, get me a warm introduction to the CEO. Or, hey, we need to get into Mercy Hospital. So your job at this point is to schmooze your way into figuring out how to get us a contact with the CEO or whoever it is we need to, and go from that. So that's what the industry person is the person that comes in. And again, it understands the language, understands how things work. Again, like I say, if you're going to be dealing with tech people, right? Tech people are type A aspies, right? We're assholes. Again, if you deal with tech people that are actually doing real work, we are jackasses. And so that's the thing. Like so if you were going to create a product for tech people, and right, you might hire somebody like me, right, to go in and to be able to say the language, just be able to walk in a very comfortable way, say, hey, what's going on? Somebody says some dumb shit, I say some dumb shit back, and then we're all smiling, we're all laughing, while the business person is fucking horrified, wondering if we're all going to get sued. All right, that's the kind of thing like the industry. The industry person is one that can just walk in, can just have a conversation, knows the word, knows the lingo, knows the issues that are going on, and just to try to push the ball forward that way. And can also head off problems. Like, oh, I see that this is going to be, you may not know about this regulation exists, that kind of stuff. I hope that makes sense. Oh, Jock. Fuck, Jock. We're almost done, Jock. Okay, you get one question, and then I'm going to be done. I need to get done with this. What's up, Jock?
So going off your last statement, and I got a feeling you're going to give me the lawyer answer, it depends. Which one should, if you're starting off, which one should you, and you have a little bit of money, because they're both going to cost, which one should you try to do? Industry founder, which you probably have to pay a little bit, or the biz dev guy who's familiar with the industry? Which, in your opinion, and again, it depends on, it could be anything. It could be healthcare, it could be computers, it could be, construction. Which one would you suggest, because you only have limited time and limited funds, should you try to partner with?
So you shouldn't be spending any money on co-founders. Co-founders are pure 100% equity, right? The only reason you ever fund a co-founder is that they look at you with puppy fucking dog eyes and they go, I got 3 kids and a mortgage and I literally can't walk away from my day job. Then, again, you try to figure out if you got some money to pad that for them. Co-founders are 100% equity. If you're paying a co-founder, unless they gave you puppy dog eyes, that's just a bad way to go. So basically, you should be selling this on the dream. Look, I think we could go in there. I'm able to create this product. We bring you 2 on board. I think we can get this to a $30 million exit or whatever else. You get 1/3 of whatever's left after a $30 million exit. That's what you should be selling off of. So yeah, so the co-founders you should not be spending any money for. You should be able to sell them on this dream, or you're in this dream together, and go from there. If you're having to spend money on co-founders, be careful. Be careful. Again, like I say, if you know somebody and you know they're solid, and you've always wanted to work with them, and you've got some money, and again, you might need to give them a cushion because it's the real world. You might need to give them a cushion. That's its own deal, but that should be a very one-off, random-ass case. Yeah. And that's the other thing too, is again, the money, any money that comes in should be coming from the investors or should be coming from revenue. Again, so that whole business or startup thing, if you're doing a startup, again, that's why you got that business person to get that $500,000 of revenue in the door. You know, the money, right? Give you all money, right? You need a paycheck too. So, yeah. That's that. Don't pay co-founders. Do not pay co-founders. Addressable market size. So this is going to be a big thing for you to think about. Again, you see this on Shark Tank. Shark Tank will be like, why should we give you money? And they're like, everybody in the world breathes air. And like, no, that's not your addressable market. When you talk about the addressable market, this is the active word, addressable. Who the ever-loving hell can you actually sell to? Again, if you were a pizza store, you're coming up with tech pizzas in Asheville, right? No matter how tech your pizzas are, no matter what else, we've got 90,000 people here. So theoretically, the max addressable market, whatever, might be 90,000 people. How many people actually like pizza? How many people are gluten intolerant? How many people are lactose intolerant? And then you say, look, the entire addressable market is whatever. And this is one of those things, again, that can really screw you, is you go out there, you may have a good idea, you may have a good price point, you may have a good CAC, but you're just limited on how many people are actually going to be willing to buy your product. And so again, that's why you got to go out there and have all those conversations, that type of thing. Mentors, accelerators, and support. This is my phrase. This is a real world phrase. Be careful of being accelerated into a wall. Again, as I talked about before, and I've talked about many times, distrust, verify, stay suspicious. Don't trust anybody ever for any reason. It's just how it is. I know that from experience. So you're going to go out there to create your tech business, or you're a startup, and you are going to be told about all the support that's available to you. We are so supportive of tech endeavors in our area. Well, you have to understand about a lot of these jackasses. They get paid essentially for asses and seats. They do not get paid if you are successful. They do not get paid if you create the next Facebook. They get paid if there's an ass in a seat. And this whole idea of being careful about being accelerated into a wall, again, is one of the idiocies of Baltimore City. And I saw this. Fuck. Anyways, so there was this team of 3 black guys in Baltimore City. I like them all. And they had a great product. I'm still mad about this product. I actually, like, if you see some emotion, I'm mad because this product died. Anyways, they had a great product. We're not going to go into it, but I think they had a great product. And the thing was, right, they're black guys, from Baltimore City that were creating this startup company. They graduated from computer science programs, the whole 9 yards. So they take this idea and they get into like the Baltimore Accelerator. So they get in the Baltimore Accelerator, and the Baltimore Accelerator is supposed to be eight weeks. So the idea with an accelerator is it's supposed to just move you through the process really quickly. Again, everybody has this idea that they're unique. One of the big takeaways from all of my classes is you are not unique. You are not a snowflake. People have done it a gazillion times before. It's unique to you. It's not unique to the world. And so what the idea with accelerators is, shit, this stuff is done, so many times. Why don't we kind of codify how this crap is done and basically be able to accelerate these startup companies? They may all come in with different ideas, but taxes are taxes, and contracts are contracts, and LLCs or C Corps or C Corps. We can just accelerate. And again, you can accelerate with explaining and teaching how customer acquisition works. If you have a cohort in Accelerator, you're all working at the same time, so you can all learn off of each other, especially as new products come out. Like somebody, you may not be thinking about advertising with TikTok, and somebody advertises with TikTok is like, oh my God, our return on investment on TikTok is insane. And the entire fucking cohort starts dumping money at TikTok, right? That's the idea with an accelerator. The problem is with the accelerators, right? They get funded by governments and that kind of thing. And what's success? What's success? What's failure? And so these folks, these nice guys, I really do like them. Anyways, they had their project. They had worked 1,000 hours on the startup, on the technical side of the startup, and so they went through the Baltimore Accelerator. Well, then they were accelerating so well, they got picked up. They got picked up by a West Coast accelerator. And as a West Coast accelerator, especially for black people. Right? Because black people need more support because people like me aren't supportive enough, which is fine. I get it. I'm actually not snarky on that. I do grasp the concept there. But anyways, right? So they're going to go to the West Coast where there's going to be more support around them, more specialized for the specific issues, right? Socially, economically, they might be running into, and they're going to accelerate. So they zip out of the Baltimore City Accelerator, and then they zip out of the West Coast Accelerator, and they come back to Baltimore. And then I get asked, I had a buddy of mine who was doing like these beta testing programs for the startups, and it was like, yeah, come to the beta testing, they're coming back, so let's do some beta testing, we can do the user experience, we can do all that kind of stuff, really make sure that they have a polished product so that they'll be successful. And so I go to this beta testing thing that was set up. This was not a surprise for anybody or anything like that. This was all set up. They've been through 2 accelerators, all 9 yards. And I shit you not, the product didn't work. The product was literally not functional. And not only was it not functional, but then you got the stuff where you saw like $ name at places where it was showing the variable name, not the variable value. And I was like, what the fuck? And so anyway, I talked to the main founder of this thing, and I'm like, what the hell's going on? I was like, Jesus, you guys have been screwed. He's like, no, I thought it went pretty well. I was like, what? And basically, the big thing that came out of these 2 accelerators is that they had been renamed. Again, this is a true story. So basically, the original name that they had, I personally loved, that was like too masculine. And so to feminize it a bit and make it a little bit more, they figured out a new name. So 4 months of acceleration got them a new name and a product that didn't work. I see a whole bunch of people that got paid and a couple of folks that got screwed. And so that's where you have to worry about this. And again, what was interesting with this, I actually did a blog post about this. And there was something called the Baltimore Facebook technology group or whatever, and I posted it there. Because I'm like, what the hell? This is not supporting our community. This shit is not supporting our community. And literally, I got read the riot act, because how dare I question what happened to those young men. Literally, the founder was like, I appreciate your advice. I appreciate what you've told us the whole 9 yards. I'm taking it to heart. And the rest of the community roasted me on a social media spit. So anyways, that's one of the things you have to be careful about this with the mentors, accelerators, and support. That was the other thing. I had a buddy of mine. Again, great buddy of mine, graduated MIT, multiple tech exits, the whole 9 yards. And he was working really hard. Doing his next thing. And then it came up on my screen that he became a mentor. So again, there was like this other accelerator thing. And he was like a mentor for this. And I thought that was weird. Because he was busy. Like, I knew he was busy. I know he's fucking busy. So anyways, next time I see him, we're drinking some coffee. I'm like, yeah, I saw you become a mentor for this particular program. And I literally asked him, I'm like, Jesus, how do you have enough time? Like, literally, I know what you're doing. How do you have enough time to be a mentor for this program? And he was like, well, I'm like, Christ. And he was like, yeah. He was like, yeah, so, yeah, they just want you to be mentors, but they don't really require, like, very much time. So as long as I, like, provide, like, 30 minutes or an hour a month of something, yeah, I'm considered one of their mentors. So I want you to think about this. When you're looking at accelerators and mentors and incubators and all that kind of thing, when you look at that beautiful list of mentors that they have, is it going through your mind that many of them literally only guaranteed 30 minutes a month of support? And so that's why you got to be careful with this, especially when you're dealing with things like accelerators and incubators. Many times they want a chunk of your equity, right? They will want up to 20% of your equity for going through their accelerator. And so again, right, if they accelerate you out, you might make it over that brick wall, and then they own 20% of your valuable company, whether or not they've actually provided you very much value. So be careful. Where to work? Where do you work? Office space, retail space, co-working, or from home? The big thing to think about in the modern world is nothing is real. I think about this with when I had my business. So I had a 2,500 square foot commercial space when we had my employees. And one of the things I was very proud of is we had like this conference room area. And I had my whiteboard, and I had my wooden table, and I had my chairs, because I was going to have clients come, and I was going to impress them with how cool we were. And here's the thing, all my clients were kind of busy, so they never wanted to come to my fancy conference room. They always wanted me to come, and I would be like curled into some fucking warehouse somewhere trying to have a conversation about how to build out their infrastructure. That's reality, right? So a lot of people are like, oh, again, to be real, you need X, Y, or Z. And again, do you? You can't work out of home. Again, even back in the day before remote work became the thing, I knew multi-million-dollar, yearly businesses that were literally being run out of garages or basements or that type of thing. Because what do they need? They need desks. They need phones and that type of thing. They don't necessarily need a real office space. So that's going to be a big question for you, whether or not you should spend. Again, when you start spending money, whenever you look at something like it says like $12 an hour per square, or $12 per square foot. Basically, what that is that's how much it costs per square foot per year. So if you see $12 per square foot, that means it's going to cost you $1 per month per square foot. So 1,000 square feet at $12 per square foot is going to cost you $1,000 a month. 1,000 square feet at $24 per square foot is going to cost you $2,000 a month. Blah. Beyond that, there's this whole triple net. Again, if you actually go out and rent a place, do be careful. Make sure you understand what you're paying for. So a lot of places, especially when you're getting a small place, it'll be pretty understandable, right? You'll basically pay for the walls. You'll pay for your own utilities, that type of thing. If the furnace blows up, it's the landlord's responsibility. You do get into some weird things if you go and rent places. Again, do be careful with this. I'm not going to get into it today. It's its own fucking class. What the terms are. So you can have places where you pay rent, but then you're also charged a percentage of facilities cost, a percentage of taxes, a percentage of other things. So you walk in, you're like, wow, $1,000 a month for this thing. This is great, and we get all these facilities. Well, yeah, but you're also paying a percentage for those facilities. So again, depending on your budget, that may or may not be good. But that's one of the things to kind of consider. Again, the difference between office and retail space, one of the things to consider here is walk-by traffic going to matter for you? So if walk-by traffic doesn't matter to you, retail space is always going to cost more money than office space, so go with office space. If you're going to get any kind of retail traffic, again, remember advertising costs money, right? CAC, client acquisition cost, right? If you can have a retail space and you can have your nice sign up and all of that, again, for web development work or that type of thing, even if you only get one client per month, even if you get one client per month because you have a retail space, that might actually make sense from an advertising standpoint. Elon Satoshi comes in 3 hours after class begins. Anyways. Oh, let's see here. Prices. Getting to the final bits. Then I get to go home. I'm already home. Anyways, prices. When you're looking to bill, you need to bill at very least $100 an hour. And to be clear, when I made up this rule is from like 15 years ago. So it should probably be about $125 an hour, or maybe $150 an hour. This freaks people out. What do you mean charging $100 or $150 an hour? One of the things you have to realize, again, even if you have time and materials business, is you're not going to be working nearly as much as you think you are, right? So you have 40 hours a week, right? So when you go into work and you work 40 hours a week and you make $50 an hour, whatever, 40 hours a week, that's how much you make for 40 hours. When you charge $100 or $150 an hour, you only get to charge that when you're actually working. So if you work 10 hours out of a week, that means you're only making $1,000, which means you're only maybe making $52,000 a year. Even if you work 20 hours a week, woo, right? Okay, then you make $100,000 a year, right? But the thing is, out of $100,000, which seems like a lot of money, you got to deduct all your expenses. Again, CAC, client acquisition cost, comes out of that. Rent comes out of that. Insurance comes out of that. Paying for that for the tax accountants comes out of that. So even when you're charging $100 an hour, you're actually billing at 20 hours a week, which is pretty good for time and material billing. And what you start to find out is you're not actually making a lot of money. You're taking a tremendous amount of risk Because if your clients don't come in the door, you go bankrupt, but you're not making a tremendous reward. And so that's one of the things you really have to be thinking about with this. Again, like when I used to do I talked about running a computer repair business back in the day, and I talked about charging $100 an hour. And a lot of people would say, oh, I'd be happy with $25 an hour. They're like, that's ridiculous. That's stupid. You'll starve to death on $25 an hour. $25 an hour for an hour seems good. $25 an hour at scale is dog crap. The other thing to be thinking about too, again, when you run your business, again, if you have 40 hours a week, you're not going to spend all 40 of those doing time and material billing, right? You're going to have to deal with the accountant. You're going to have to deal with the advertising. You're going to have to deal with vendors. You're going to have to unpack, right? You buy all this crap from Amazon or Newegg, you got to unpack all that crap from Amazon and Newegg. There's a lot of additional work, right? Even if you have 40 hours, even if you can theoretically fill up 40 hours with paying work, you simply aren't, because you have these additional things that are required in order to make your business function. When you're thinking about doing businesses, when you're thinking about doing the pricing mechanism, again, there's basically maintenance contracts or subscriptions, where you see everywhere nowadays, or you have time and material billing. I did time and material billing. That was a mistake. Because you know what happens when you have a great recession and you do time and material billing? Nobody calls anymore, and your business dies that quick. So when I ran my business, we had the option. People had asked for maintenance contracts, and I said no. I will keep it at time and material billing because I want to stay honest. And then we had the Great Recession happen, and yeah, we got fucked. Anyway, so what time and material billing is basically you simply pay for time and material. Again, what you get is what you pay for. Maintenance contracts or subscriptions, again, it's that monthly ongoing thing. The thing you have to think about that is basically how much is it actually going to cost you to be able to provide those services, and then does the numbers actually make sense? Again, you might sit there and you might think, charging $50 per system for a maintenance contract for computers, right? That might make sense. But if you have a 10-person company, so it's $500 a month that you're going to be making off of them. You have to have the employee. You have to have people go there. You have to think about how much preventive maintenance you're going to work. Again, that's one thing you have to think about with maintenance contracts, is what all is included. Is preventive maintenance included? Is upgrades included? That's one of the big things in the tech world, right, with our jobs, is we do a lot of work in a short amount of time and then nothing for years, right? You do this big-ass migration, and then you just watch the log files for 2 years until you do the next big-ass migration. One of the things about these maintenance contracts is how is that going to work? Again, when they have a migration come through or whatever else, things to consider. One of the big things I found with pricing is people are more willing to pay for material than for labor. So I used to do project costs. I guess I don't have that here. Project costs. So it was interesting, right? So if I have a $10,000 project, so we used to do surveillance cameras before they were cool, before there was Nest and Ring and all that. And you could charge a lot of money for surveillance cameras. So much money. Anyways, so we had a $10,000 project. And we're going to be honest. We were going to be honest in our billing for that $10,000 project. So we could buy cameras for, the cameras we used, depending on what they were between $50 to $200, depending on which ones they were. Anyways, so again, you get a 16 camera system. So let's say the cameras are going to cost you $2,000, the server's going to cost you $1,500, something like that. And so it'd be about $3,500 for material, let's just say, and about $6,500 for labor. Right? That's more or less how the pricing should break down. And let me tell you, people would lose their damn mind. I can't believe, how much are you charging us an hour? This is ridiculous. Oh, they would scream. They would bitch, they would moan. It was just bad times, right? Again, you should be making 5 cents an hour or something. I don't know what the hell they thought. But anyways, right, so you give them a $10,000 project, $3,500 materials, $6,500 labor. They won't stop bitching. Anyways. Here's a funny thing. Here's a funny thing about humans. You take that same $10,000 final price. You push the material cost to $8,000, because you can charge whatever you want for the material, or you can try to charge whatever you want for the material. This is what I sell a material for. You push the material charge to $8,000. You push the labor charge, squeeze the labor charge down to $2,000. Same $10,000 bill. Oh yeah, sure. Oh, that's a steal. Oh, Eli, I am so glad I found a company as affordable as yours. Like, what the? So anyways, that's one of the real things. Again, when you sell materials, again, even if you're buying off of Amazon or whatever, again, you can upcharge. You can mark them up. That's one of the things too, is you'll see a lot of companies, they'll use weird products. Like even if they use Western Digital or Dell or something like that, a lot of times there will be white box options, or there might be options for products, essentially a different SKU, a different model number that is not sold on Amazon.com. And the reason for that is so you can mark it up. Well, Eli, I see we're buying this MK406 camera for you for $1,000. I went on to Amazon and there was a KVM06 camera for $80. I don't understand this price discrepancy. Oh, well, what you saw on Amazon, see, that's the consumer grade version of this particular camera. Yeah, I mean, it's not bad. If you want to install it, again, I've got warranties. When you buy from us, you've got a warranty with us. If there's any issue, we'll come back. We'll make sure everything's up and running, the whole 9 yards. That's why I really feel confident in this particular line of cameras. I know it's going to do the job that we're selling it for. Again, if you want to do it yourself, you want to try DIY, you can buy that camera off of Amazon. I wish the best for you. And that's basically how it works. And now I know some of the socialists out there are going to lose their damn minds. Here's the thing. How the hell do you think you pay your mortgage? If you charged people what they want to pay you, you would starve to death. Again, because that's one thing, like I talk about this stuff and a lot of people lose their minds, but it's like, where do you think employee salaries come from? Where do you think facilities come from? Where do you think errors and omissions insurance payments come from? It comes from upcharging the customer. And so again, like the big thing, as I always say, is don't lie to people, right? Under promise, over deliver. Look, when you buy this surveillance system, this is going to be a 16 camera surveillance system. It is going to be able to see in the dark, 0.002 lux or whatever the hell it is we used to sell. They are weatherproof, they are vandal proof. I guarantee the system is going to work well. It's going to record, for up to 2 months, blase, blase, blase. And if you have any issues, you can come to me at any time and I'll make sure that you're happy, right? Under promise, over deliver, sell the product that you're selling. But if they're willing to pay the price, take the damn money. And then finally, really, TLDR, what I've been trying to get to this entire class is you don't need to do this. A good job and investing in an index fund will make you more money. Take this advice. If you take away anything from this class, do this. It's called an index fund. They're called spider funds, right? There's this weird thing in the modern world that everybody needs to be an entrepreneur. Everybody needs to do small business. That's garbage. Again, when I went through school, so I graduated high school back in the 90s, I went through something called DECA, Distributive Education Clubs of America, my VOTEC program. So we have VOTEC. I don't know if they still have VOTEC, right? Some people learn how to do plumbing. Some people learn how to do electrical. I learned how to do small business. I spent 2 years in something called DECA Entrepreneurship Program. And let me tell you, back in the day, the only people in DECA were fellow D&D geeks. There were no cool kids in DECA. There were no cheerleaders in DECA. There was nobody going to Harvard in DECA. It was the geeks. It was like, oh, I remember you from Dungeons and Dragons, right? And something has happened over the past number of years to turn that into the sexy new thing. And all I'm going to say, again, it is hard, it is difficult, it's a grind, there's an incredible amount of risk. Again, you've got, what is that called? Oh, potential, right? Lost potential or whatever. Again, you've got kids growing up. You've got other things that you want to do. Is this actually what you want to do? It is what it is. It is what it is. If you want to do it. Basically, if you were such a god-awful employee that nobody will hire you, you would probably make a good entrepreneur. Otherwise, it's called an index fund. Use it. So there we go. That is it then. Thank God it is over. I'm sorry, did I say that out loud? I did say it out loud. But it's over. Yay. Any questions? It is 5:08. I've been yabbering for over 3 hours. Any questions? Let's see here. Chat. There's a lot of stuff in chat. Questions. Raise a hand. Raise a hand. Raise a hand. If you're sure. Yeah, no. Questions. There we go. Oh, summits, whatever. You, what's up?
Okay. My question is that actually I think I don't have much skill in web development, but I want to start a web agency because I think my father's clients. My father is an accountant. He's managing about let's say 30 to 40 small size firms, which are having less than 10 employees or maybe less than 20 employees, something along these lines. I think maybe I can find some businesses who are willing to make a website, who are willing to host a website of their own, right? So, what level of skill should I have to start this venture?
Wait, you're building websites or hosting websites?
No, building websites and hosting websites.
Oh, okay. Well, hosting websites, make sure you just send it off to somebody else, whatever, GoDaddy or DigitalOcean or something. And then building, basically, you just have to be good enough for them to hire you. I think that's one of the big things, the big problems in the modern world. Again, everybody wants validation. When am I good enough? And if you ask that, you'll never be good enough. So really what I would say is what you should do is, if you want to do web design, start building your own websites. Just look at stupid things, come up with stupid companies, build websites for your portfolio. Once you've got, let's say, 5 that look pretty decent, again, start going out to people that might hire you. Again, here for you in the US, again, I talk about nonprofit firms, that type of thing. And that will give you the experience of learning how the process works. Again, there's a business process beyond the actually building the website, learning what customers want, learning how that kind of thing is. So basically do some low-cost ones so that you start understanding how all that works. And then from there, again, just go and basically get whatever client will hire you. Again, under promise, over deliver. Do not lie. Don't bullshit or any of that kind of thing. But you will be surprised how amazing customers don't need you to be. Right? There's this idea like you need to be the next Bill Gates. Nah, you don't need to be the next Bill Gates, right? You might need some HTML and CSS. And so you go and again, you can start talking to people and again, asking them what do they want. You build things, you show off what you're doing. And I mean, again, if you're doing web design, honestly, I mean, a noob could probably be selling websites sub a month, I'd imagine. Again, if they work at it, make nice things, understand what's going on. But yeah, you don't need any great, amazing experience.
Well, actually, I was thinking of making my father's own company's website, right? My father is also having a company. It's a pretty small company. And I was thinking making a very good website and maybe I can showcase his work to other prospective clients, right?
Yeah. I mean, that's great. Again, like nepotism, I'm all for I don't know what the hell happened. Like nepo baby sounds good to me. I'm like, what? Elon Satoshi back in. Yeah, like there's this whole thing nowadays, like, nepotism's horrible. Well, yeah, if it doesn't help you, helps me, it's fine. Right? So that's the thing is like a lot of people have contacts and they have relationships. Again, we talk about this relationships thing. You have valuable contacts and relationships that other people might not have. And so, again, nobody has to know what your dad paid for something, right? You don't have to say, my daddy paid me nothing. No. What you say is, my client, Daddy LLC, I built them this website with all of this stuff going on. If you would like a website as nice and pretty as this one is, I can easily build that for you. And the nice part is there, again, and yeah, you latch on to a known good company to prove your value, and you go from there. Again, you got to be careful because if you're using your dad's name and you do something stupid, probably not going to be happy with you. But yeah, no, and like nepotism, I'm all for nepotism. And that's the thing too, like I say, with all these relationships and things, again, with relationships, what relationships do you already have? Do you know some business owners? Do you know some ministers or whatever? Do you know organization leaders where you can just sit down and again, as a friend, say, look, I'm just trying to get some experience in order to be able to create this business. Look, are there any problems that you're running into that I might be able to solve? And again, and right again, as I talked about with that first big client that I got, I literally screwed up. I answered the wrong question, but they accepted it and moved on. Right? They're like, oh, you work for this church and you've done work for this business and you've done work for this school. Man, that's good enough for me. If they're willing to hire you, I'm willing to hire you. So yeah, go for that. Oh, Akram. Yeah, what's up?
Hey, so I have a question about getting to know people in the domain you request.
Yep.
So, for example, this is the biggest game changer for me is understanding your client or understanding a domain that you want to learn about by someone who's been through the experience. Basically, the same thing we're doing here, that you're teaching us stuff that you've been experienced with and dealt with everything in it. So how would you go about finding those people or interacting with them online? So let's say I want to talk with a CEO of a company that knows everything about tax regulations and how to deal with finances and lawyers in a specific state, for example, or something along the lines of that. How would you go about it online?
Yeah, online, I probably want it. Well, the issue that you're running into with the online thing is, again, it's when people are only a click away, people only value them being a click away. Again, like one of the practical issues I'm running into with Silicon Dojo right now. So we do the Mondays, 1 to 5. I do the one-on-ones, right? They're free. All you have to do is you just sign up. Again, no barrier. Whoever you are, you come. I listen to you. I give you the best advice I can. The practical thing is I'm actually having an issue right now with no-shows. So people sign up. They get reminded that they're going to be having these things, and then they don't show up, which is an actual real issue. Again, that's why we now have punishments for it. And so that's the thing, is like when you have these CEOs, they are going to get hammered to high hell and back by so many people that want their attention, right? Again, and now with AI is garbage. Like Salesforce even explained the disaster of AI. So basically with Salesforce now, they determined they don't want their salespeople dealing with low-level, low-value communication with potential clients. So that's all going to get farmed out to AI. So you're now going to have AI spam bots because Salesforce as a corporation doesn't think it's valuable enough to at least have their own salespeople create the spam. And so think about this. If you're a CEO or if you're a decision maker, think about how many times you're getting hammered every single day by complete and utter jackasses. And then think, again, it's that whole thing of even if they might be interested in what you're asking, what are the chances it's not going to hit the trash bin before they even see it? And so that's why it's important. So that's where, like, if you're looking for places in other regions or whatever, that's why you do conferences, that type of thing. And I really believe just the in-person communication is probably going to be the best way to go. Yeah.
Thank you. That makes sense. If I could ask just another quick question.
Yep.
What do you think about mentorship or paying for mentors? Is it worth it or not?
You pay for mentors? Yeah. If you trust them. I mean, mentors can be shocking garbage. Again, like what's really weird for me, again, I'm almost 50, so I'm 48 and a half now. And what's weird is being in the tech world for so long, I have gone from like idolizing a lot of people to not. And what's surprising is there are a lot of 60-year-old dipshits out, and just freaking morons out there. But they sell, like what they do, what you'll notice is they're very coiffed. Like they'll have the gray hair and everything is back in the perfect way, and they'll have the nice polo shirt on, and they look the very image of an executive. And again, like I say, I'll go have a cup of coffee and talk with them, and they're damn morons. But they're selling things like mentorship and advising and that type of deal. And so that's what you have to be careful about, is if you're going to pay, be very careful, but understand why they should be worth a penny like, and literally a penny, right? And then understand what are the expected gains for you. Like, okay, I'm going to use this particular mentor because they have the Rolodex into the industry that I'm trying to get into. So I'm going to pay them this month. And the expectation, again, there's got to be expectations. The expectation, I pay them this money and I get 2 phone calls this month. Again, don't get stupid on the expectations, not fucking 50 phone calls. But it's like, look, if they can get me 2 phone calls into like important people in the industry I care about, that is worth paying them. If the advice they give you, the mentorship they give you is, oh, you should email those people. Don't pay them. Don't pay them. Yeah.
Thanks a lot, Eli. Sorry for taking too much time.
Yeah. No worries. Okay. Any final questions? Final questions. Dun dun dun. All right. Well, that is it. It's been a long day. So Bottle web app framework should be out on Monday. We'll see how long it takes to film that video. It took a day to write the damn thing. I don't know if we're gonna have a class next week. Again, doing these self-study classes are a lot of work. Again, that's one thing you have to think about is like, how much work does everything take? These self-study classes are actually taking much more work than I thought they were going to take. Again, you don't know until you do it. That's one of the reasons you have to do it, is because you have an idea in your head. Like with these self-study classes, I have the idea in my head. Oh, that's not too hard. I just create bullet points for all the subjects for these self-study classes. I then create notes for those bullet points, and then I do 5-minute videos. That should be quick and easy. Yeah, and then you start doing it. Again, it's not the most horrible thing in the world, but it takes a lot more work than I was expecting. And again, so that's one of the reasons why you've got tonight, you've got to start working on your product. So anyways, we may or may not have a class next week, and we're going to keep going. Again, every Monday, I do those office hours things, and yeah, I don't know, that's all I got. So no questions? Cool. See y'all later.